cool about cars, and some of the closest friends I have are I've met would never have met if it wasn't for racing. Amanda found it was a '68 Volkswagen Bug. It was cool. It was lowered down, flat
All right.
black. Kind of had a cool look to it. And man, she puts this thing, Joe, to the floor and just and there it takes off. And it pauses because she kind of speed shifts. She's kind of a hot rodder. She can drive stick shift. It pauses, and so it's going wah, wah. So when she finds where the gear is, she dumps the clutch back and it squats again, and then there it goes.
Gone.
Yeah, it may have made 39 horsepower then by the
I
RPM.
bet.
Seems like anything worth having though. It doesn't go as smooth as everybody wants it to.
Never, man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cars, same way. Yeah.
Cars. So yeah, that's that's one of your fortes.
Yeah,
You've
yeah.
been in for a while.
We mess with a lot of them. Yeah.
My experience with cars is if I could just have one car, two cars to work on, in a garage sitting out in the middle of nowhere,
That's right. Yeah.
no customers coming in, just flip the door open and start working, man. I love that part of it.
Yeah.
But the business side of it, man, that's just so
It's
hard.
terrible because what happens is what everybody's view of what the car needs to be, and then the process to get it there never line up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like the image that they want isn't going to match up with the price that they want to spend, and then what needs to be done never matches up with their budget either. You
Right.
know, or vice versa, or how things are going to get there. And man, just working on things are never going to go the
Right.
way. I've got the '74 Camaro, so in theory, what is it? 70. It's 70 to 81 Camaros should all be the same. Apart from here, should fit this one. It never goes like that.
Man, it's crazy how that works.
It's wild. Yeah, something's always going to be in a 50-year-old car. She hasn't probably had the easiest life in the world. So
Yeah, I've got two in there, right? I got a 79 and an 80
oh yeah,
for
yeah,
building. The only thing on those is, they had that half kind of unibody setup.
yeah, yeah.
And those welds over time weaken.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll get a lot of flex in those
Yeah.
cars where, you'll get it all set up and your door lock gaps, everything looks good. And then and the next thing you know, it's like, wait a second, that door is not lined up
That's
right,
right. That's exactly. And those doors, well, they weigh like 200 something
Yeah, they're
pounds.
crazy.
That's my car's like that. So my car being a '74 is the one-off year. So I've got the same back glass as a '70 to '73. So
Yeah.
split bumper back window, but I've got the full bumper. So
Okay.
we always call that it's like the redhead stepchild of the '70s Camaros. Nobody wanted the full bumper cars. And that's how it got the name the Disco Maro. Is because a guy named Ryan Roberts who owns oh just went blank. SSR Performance in Reedland. He's
Mhm.
got the dyno and stuff. And one day we were doing something, and he goes, he's like, it wouldn't be so heavy if you didn't have those disco bumpers on it.
Right.
And then that's how it's,
Yeah.
he was making fun, just kind of poking fun. And then that's how it took off. It took
Hmm.
off as the Disco Maro.
Didn't
And
know that. That's
yeah.
cool.
So
Yeah.
then we shortened it to just the Disco. So
Sure.
yeah, that's it fits that air.
Yeah. I'm sure Poncho.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like the Camaro. He's my Camaro guy. If I got a question about Camaro, I can ask
Yeah.
him. He
Let's
knows
say, yeah,
everything. This is more back in the 68, 67,
yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
that model there. But man, that guy knows everything. We did a 69 for him. I don't know if you've seen it yet.
Mm-mm.
It's been touring around and been hitting some folks.
Really?
Yeah, man.
Now, what
It
color
was
is it?
it's red with black
I think I have
stripes.
seen that car. Yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
You got so much chrome underneath it
Oh,
blinds
man.
you when you open it. I'm not a big chrome guy, but he chrome. It looks good.
Chrome, I'm the same way. Chrome has its place. Certain
Yeah.
rides,
Oh
they
yeah.
do. But yeah, I'm not huge on chrome. I do like polished aluminum. I know it's like, oh, that's the same thing. Yeah, it's a little different.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just all depends on what it is, what the style you're going to. You're probably noticing too. Numbers matching stuff was huge,
Yeah.
10, 15 years ago. It's huge.
Mhm.
Numbers matching is what you wanted. Now it's more, we want a resto mod. We
Yeah.
want it to be super drivable, so super nice car and very drivable. Hey, we can drive to church on Sunday, or we can go take it to Florida on vacation. Or they want it looks like it's rusted out, but it runs really good.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you got, I don't know what you would call that, more of a patinaed
Yeah,
style.
patina style.
I
Yeah.
think that's what's huge now. It seems like if you find an old truck with a bunch of good patina on it, and then it's got a nice drive line, it's worth more than a numbers matching, never been touched
Yeah.
barn find.
You know that the hard thing of that patina stuff's a little harder than what people realize because if you got an area that really needs to be repaired,
Hmm.
the rest of the truck's just patinaed out really good.
Yeah,
How do you,
that's
you're
tough.
trying to get that fixed while keeping that same exact patina
Oh
look.
yeah,
And there's no one way. I mean, patina does its own thing over the
that's
years,
right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a tough one. But the Camaro, what So what I'm seeing now is okay. So how many Model A's have you seen lately? How many Model T's? Near
Very
none.
few. Yeah.
And now you're starting to see the Tri-Fis. The
Hmm.
Tri-Fis are starting to, you're seeing less and less of them,
Yeah.
and you're seeing that '60s model, pretty much '60s and '70s model car,
Yeah.
whether it's Camaro or
It's kind of
whatever.
what's exploding. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's because of the generational. As one generation
Yeah.
goes, the next generation comes up, and it goes back to what we had in high school.
Yeah.
Everybody wants that.
That's
I
right.
tell people we don't build cars, we build time machines. When you see that dude put his hand on the steering wheel of his
Yeah.
that car, you can see it, and he goes back in
That's
time.
right. Yeah.
And whoever's sitting next to him is his girlfriend.
That's
Whether
right.
his
Yeah.
wife now or whatever. That's he goes back in time in his mind, and he relives
That's a
that.
good way to put it. It's almost like you're building memories there.
Yeah, yeah,
In both aspects of time, you're building something that's bringing back old memories, and then you're going to be able to create new memories with
yeah,
it. That's something cool about cars. And some of the closest friends I have are I've met would never have met if it wasn't for racing and stuff. And that's basically what it is. Going to the track's fun, but if you look at it as working on cars and racing, cruise ins, it's fun. It is, and it is a lot about the cars, but it's a lot about the camaraderie. The friendship building,
yeah,
the stuff like that. I mean, you get the animosity. Racing can cause a little bit of animosity, if you will, a little bit of competition there. There's guys you're going to outrun. You're not going to like them whether you outrun
yeah.
them or they outrun you. But for the most part, it's just it's the getting together and enjoying everybody's builds, and stuff. They actually have some nice cruise ins right down the road here, where they call it Cars and Cigars.
Yeah, cars and
That
cigars. Yeah,
that's a pretty
yeah,
neat deal where you can get something to eat and come downtown, get something to eat, and then show off your car.
yeah.
People like that.
I don't go to a lot of car shows anymore. Two reasons. One reason is I run into so many people
Oh,
that
I
are
can imagine. Yeah,
they're like, "When's my car gonna be ready?"
yeah,
The other thing is I get the same stories over and over.
over and over. Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah. The
I don't
third,
do a lot of them, and I don't really need any more work. I'm covered up,
I
so
can imagine.
I'm not looking to
I
run
can
into so I
imagine.
miss that part of it. But what I really miss is back a while years ago, I could just I could touch a car. I was a car guy. I wasn't your traditional car guy always when I was like young teenager. Um, I liked all the hot rods and trucks, but also liked, I was in the '90s stuff. I like a '93 Arc 7s
Oh
and,
yeah,
little
yeah,
spaceship.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I liked a lot of those. I even had like the little 280s and stuff like
Yeah,
that. Those
yeah.
fun little
I had one of
cars.
those for about 10 minutes once.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one. It was the non-turbo, and what are they like a 3.0?
Yeah, it's like a
Those,
straight six.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Little, I can't remember what it was, but a good friend of mine had one, and it got stuck. So he was test driving this. I had it was what was that car? It was a little Ford, like a Fiesta-like car. It wasn't a Fiesta, but anyway, it was a little cheap car. I gave $100 for it, delivered pizzas in it. He needed a good work car. I didn't need it anymore. I didn't deliver pizzas. And he had this, it was a 280, I think. And it's a little stick shift car, but inline six on it. It was the non-turbo version.
Yeah.
And he said, "Okay, you drive it for the night. I'm gonna take your car to work." He worked midnights, and we were gonna swap next day, see if we wanted to trade. And as I was test driving it, it got stuck in third gear.
Oh, yeah.
Transmission broke. It got stuck
That's
in third.
that's odd.
And he was like, I was gonna go ahead and trade. I'm like, hey, we can make it work. But he's like, no, we're not doing that to you. And he ended up driving that car stuck in third. He didn't have a long commute to work, but he drove that car for like 3 months stuck in third gear
Yeah.
to drive it to work. Can you imagine revving that dude
You
up to
get
try
it
to
to
get it to
take off.
go in third gear?
Yeah, and
Yes, and
then
it may have been second. Maybe it was second because I couldn't understand how he was even getting it to go.
yeah.
But he did it. I'm trying to, man. If we weren't talking about it right now, I could think of his name. He works at MSI now, and he's got a real nice split bumper car. But man, we were right out of high school, so I was 19 years old. That would have been a cool car to have though
Yeah, those
for
were
the
fun they
90s.
were just fun to drive,
Oh yeah.
and real they handled so well. But right now I have a '68 Lincoln.
Oh cool.
I've been building forever. I finally got it under like a high build prime. But now the difference between mine is I don't have it's two door.
Okay.
Everybody likes those suicide doors,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but you never see a two door.
Yeah,
You
ever.
know what
Yeah,
I'm
that's
saying?
rare.
So it gives us a little bit more of a hot rod look.
Yeah.
Um, what's that Dax? Remember to look this one up when you do edit. Just in that Dax Shepherd. Have you know him?
Shepherd. Yeah, I mean, I've heard that name.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he and I think not Reese Witherspoon, but anyhow, he's built a '62 3
that's
and
pretty
made
cool.
a hot rod out of it. It's
That's
pretty
pretty neat.
badass.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and he made a little short movie
yeah.
about it, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
That is neat.
When I'm in that car, I drove that car for a little while before I decided to go ahead and just carrying. I was just gonna paint it, and then
Yeah.
next thing you know, you got the dash out.
Oh, yeah.
So we drove it around, but everywhere I went, people loved it. I think it was just because it looked a little different than everything you've
Yeah, yeah,
seen.
absolutely, yeah.
I always say those old cars like the Lincolns and the Cadillacs
Yeah.
when they were coming out, it was like people would stop and just wait to see who got out of them.
Yeah,
It was
that's exactly right, yeah.
like it was an Elvis car
Oh,
or a
absolutely, yeah.
John Wayne or whatever.
You know,
Um,
my wife really likes those Cadillacs, so that year a Cadillac, she loves it. We'll have to look
yeah.
this up too. You ever watch Roadkill? With
Little
David,
some, yeah.
David Freiberger
Mhm.
and Mike Finnegan. Mike Finnegan, we'll have to look that one up too. Mike Finnegan had a really nice white Cadillac, and he made a race car out of it, but it was more the cruiser style car that he put big block in it, big tire. It was really neat. So it may be kind of a neat thing to put up there. But my
Yeah.
wife, I think that was one of the things when we were watching that, and it's been a couple of years since he built that car. But seeing that, she liked those big
Yeah.
two door cat, the longs, those long cars, longer than a full
Boats.
school
Yeah.
bus.
Big old boat.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right. The worst car I think I ever had, man, there for a while, me and my wife, we joked about making a YouTube video one or YouTube channel once, and it was just like, what hot rods Cherry's gonna bring home this weekend.
Mhm.
And I just went through so many cars, and we were having a blast. We would get something that was kind of cool, maybe needed a little work, and we'd make a couple memories with it. Me and her would work on it together, or piddle with it, or my buddy. I've got some really good friends, Josh Coble and Brian Strow and Dustin Dillo, and they would always roll their eyes at anything I brought home. My buddy Jason Douglas, he was one of them too. Jason, and he'll listen to this, I'm sure. He's got a Cadillac CTS-V, so
Mhm.
his tastes are a little more expensive than ours,
Right.
But so we always bring this junk home. But Amanda found it was a '68 Volkswagen Bug. It was cool. It was lowered down, flat
All right.
black. Kind
Yeah.
of had a cool look to it. And Joe, I tell you, we drove that car 4 times and we walked back 3.
Yeah.
All right, it was
Yeah.
terrible. It was always in Ledbetter. It had those hubs. I guess for the axles, they're known for stripping those hubs out. It was just always something with that car. It was cool. Um, and talking about that car, just telling the story is it broke down once. We live in Ledbetter, and it gave issues once at Ledbetter gas station there. It's Casey's now. It was a 5-star then, but we get in the car. Well, the driver's seat, it was adjustable, but it's an old car. You know how they
Yeah.
go. And Amanda, I think it was just the battery cable had come off, but we're trying to figure out what's wrong with it. Long story short, just the cable, whatever that call. Typically it would need the battery cable to run, but whatever problem it caused, we got the battery tightened on it. We hadn't had this car for a day yet, and she's gonna drive it back. And that's stick shift, and you've drove Volkswagens, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
they're odd though.
The other
They're
angled.
angled a little
That's
bit,
exactly
right?
right. So I didn't know
And
that.
the clutch pedal, instead of dropping from down, doesn't it go into
Yeah,
the
yeah, it
floor?
like
So
rolls
it's got a
down.
little bit of a weird
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
to it.
you're
Yeah,
exactly right.
yeah,
And that angled thing, if no one's ever drove a Volkswagen, yeah, they don't go straight up and straight back. It's
yeah,
angled. And I tried to explain that to her because I didn't know that either when
yeah,
I'm loading this car, thinking it's a stick shift. What's hard? I'm
yeah.
having trouble getting it going first gear. But anyway, so she takes off with this car and it's loud, I mean, not crazy loud or nothing, but it's got an exhaust on it, and she pulls out in the traffic. Well, there's a car coming, but she didn't like pull out in front of him. So I whip out though, just in case, because I mean, the thing
Sure.
just broke down, so I want to make sure I'm behind her. And man, she puts this thing, Joe, to the floor and just why there it takes off, and it's making a total of 38 horsepower, but it's
Yeah,
rolling
yeah.
for what it is. And it pauses because she kind of speed shifted. She's kind of a hot rodder. She can drive stick shift. And it took her a second. So she's never drove the car. And in her mind, she's like, I can drive stick shift. I knew she could drive a stick shift. She's fine. Well, by the time she's getting out in the middle of the road, I'm thinking,
I didn't tell
well,
her
I
about
didn't
that.
tell her about the angle.
Yeah,
So she's wide open, passing like Mitch Lidecker's shop where it is. She's to the floor, never lets off. And you just hear the car, or maybe she did let off a little bit because the sound went down. But all you see the car, it's squatted from full throttle. It lets off, and then it pauses. And so it's going, what? Whoa! So when she finds where the gear is, she dumps the clutch back and it squats again, and then there it goes.
gone.
Yeah, it may have made 39 horsepower then by the
I
RPM.
bet.
But man, it was just a funny memory of the way that thing would squat at full throttle. But that maybe could have been contributed to why the hubs were always stripped out of it. So
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there, Joe.
Those are good how many car stories you don't have those car stories like we used to in the modern world because the
Yeah,
cars actually start and they
that's
run.
exactly
People
right.
don't
Yeah,
understand that, let's say back in the '70s, a guy gets up to go to work, he goes out to his car, it might start.
you might.
You weren't 100%,
That's right.
you got these manual chokes and carburetors and
That's right.
points and, just so many things that go wrong. But I can remember tons of stories about just mishaps with cars. And that Lincoln, when I got it, I wanted to drive it everywhere. we have, pretty nice new vehicles. I had a big Dodge Ram, which right now
Yeah.
it's not running, but so we got some nice rides. But I would want to drive it, and it
Yeah.
would break down. And Shelby would always be, you know,
Head up.
well,
Yeah.
she does some streaming, and one of her biggest videos, first hit, with was we were driving that thing, and it broke down in a parking lot.
Really.
Can't remember what it was,
Yeah.
and she just and I'm filming going, yeah, and then I look over at her, and she just looks at me and rolls her eyes, and it good. But then we went to take it to the lights at Noble Park
Yeah.
for Christmas, and it just. And as I'm going through there, I'm like, this thing's getting ready to die. Something's wrong.
Something's
I don't know what's
wrong.
going
Yeah.
on. And about the time we get ready to pull out, it's a red light, and it's a two-door, and it red lights, and it just dies. Now I got a
Oh,
whole car full of me, my youngest son, my oldest son, my daughter, my wife, and we're all bailing out to push this car out of the 4 lane,
so you guys got good at pushing cars then, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
happens.
they
Yeah.
got a good taste of what it was like when I grew up,
That's
because
right.
I'm gonna tell one more funny story. I hate to take up too much time,
No, go ahead. This is
but
what I like. Yeah.
my dad was just, I tell something about him he just passed away last year,
Oh,
so
okay. I'm sorry to
for
hear that.
some oh, thank you, but some reason I just keep telling stories about him, but this was one, he worked for Jim Smith for pretty much his entire life. I
Yeah.
mean, and they would have these picnics, and they would give stuff away. Well, he comes up to us. My dad was just this big brute of a man, just country as they come.
Yeah.
But anyway, he comes up and he's all excited, and he had won the car they were giving away that year. So
Really.
we're thinking, Dad just won a new car. We've
Yeah.
never even seen a new car. We were so poor.
Yeah.
We might see one fly by, but so we go over there, and it was a Cordoba, and it was like
Really.
10 years old at the time. I don't even know if you remember a
I've heard of
Cordoba.
them. Yeah, I'm trying to. Well, as you said that, I
It
laughed. I'm trying to
it's
remember
like a
exactly.
Ford
Yeah.
Granada kinda thing. Yeah, anyways, it was
We'll have to make
pretty
sure we get a picture of that up there.
definitely a
Yeah.
picture of that.
Yeah.
Man, I gotta see if I can find a picture of dad with that
Yeah.
car.
Yeah. It'd be cool.
It
Yeah.
might be.
Absolutely.
I'll have to deep dive that one. But, so we get it. It's so awful. We're all kinda trying not to laugh, you
Yeah.
know? We get it out on the road right about Interstate 24 going towards Grand Rivers.
Yeah.
It catches on fire.
Oh
The motor
man.
catches on. We got the hood up. Everybody's out there blowing, trying to get it to quit, man. Oh, I don't ever
Man.
know what happened
And
to that
once
old
they
car.
start fires, man, it's at the drag strip. Luckily, all the race cars, they're very safety oriented, but we did some dirt race. I don't know if you ever seen that. We had a guy named Steve Swain that really helped us out. And we did some on the off season of a drag strip, there's nothing going on. So you got to be kind of creative. So we had Keith Mert owns the drag strip, and he pretty much gave us free reign. Hey, as long as it's on the confines of my 109 acres, you do whatever you want. Just don't tear nothing up,
Mhm.
as in property wise.
Yeah.
So a guy named Steve Swain was helping us out, and he does a lot of audio and video stuff and promotions, and he had the great idea of doing like a dirt road course. All right, so we had some saplings growing up, so that we've got 109 acres to play with. We had a huge area. I would just say 70 acres of just saplings needed to be bush hogged. And Adam Elliott, who owns PIR across the road now, he let us borrow anything. He's a real cool guy. He liked playing around with stuff, and he said, "Man, anything you need, come get it." So we had dirt track equipment, and we built this dirt road course, and it was a blast, Joe. It was nothing expensive. There was nothing. We wanted a class where all you had to do was find a car that you pulled out of the junkyard that needed a battery and some tires, and you had a good time with it. You threw in 20, 30, $40, whatever. We'd always have different pots, and we'd just get out there. And if you had 20 cars, we might split you into two heats and then run another one. And we
Mm.
had a blast. But we had a car, though, it was a 3800 Buick, and it was rolling. Well, it kicked a rod because it didn't like sitting at 5,000 RPM in the
Yeah.
dirt for very long. And so it kicked the rod, and of course, oil's going all over the exhaust. So it caught fire. Well, as it's smoking, he pulls it up on the blacktop. We make sure it's not on the grass, and that thing, and it caught, it was a small fire. We thought, we're kind of laughing because,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
and that simple oil on that exhaust took that car down. I mean, it finally burnt to the ground. We couldn't stop. We couldn't get it to stop because
Wow.
once it caught the fuel line, now
Oh,
the
yeah.
fuel line's melted. Now it escalated into being funny to, oh man, we got a problem.
Let's get away
Now,
from this
yeah, let's
one.
get back because
Yeah.
luckily it was in a safe spot, so nothing was. It was just basically just going to burn the car, and it was a junk car anyway. But it was a wild moment of, I've never seen a car burn.
Mm.
But when fire starts in an engine bay, wild things happen. The thing was trying to short out and start,
Oh,
so
yeah.
the starter's trying to engage. The hood shocks. We were talking about this yesterday. Hood shocks, when they get to a certain temperature, will shoot that rod like a bullet.
Dang,
It's
yeah.
wild. It'll throw that rod 100 yards. It's
Yeah.
crazy. So it's things you don't think about. And then I didn't have no respect for this little bitty engine fire.
Yeah,
But once I seen that, it totally changes the dynamic of what can happen in a very short time with a small engine fire. Very quick. I mean,
sure.
things can happen fast. And something simple as a fuel line going, now it turns a kind of a funny, oh no, we need to put this out, to a very dangerous situation. So
Yeah, people don't realize how dangerous vehicles can be. I mean, you
yeah,
get used to just, it's just an everyday thing to us,
that's
but
right.
I've seen
Yeah.
a lot of things. As a matter of fact, I guess this was back in the 90s or something. We were piddling with, what did I'm keeping, it's not it's slipping my mind, not carbon. What's the newest fuel system they're doing? Hydrogen.
Yeah.
So we were building little hydrogen converters that,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
have you ever seen anybody
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
that?
Where they take the
Yeah.
wire and stuff, or
And you get
the
little
tube.
bubbles of
Yeah.
hydrogen, and you can take a lighter or a
Sound
match
like a
and then pop,
gunshot.
pop, pop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So we were doing that, and redneck as we could possibly make it.
Absolutely. We're Western Kentucky. That's in our
Exactly.
blood. Yeah.
The only thing different would be if it'd be a hillbilly, and people don't know the difference, but there is.
There's a huge difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have our
So
teeth.
yeah, right. Right, right. So we were building those, and you had to make sure you shut them off and all that, or they'd get moisture in the cylinders
Yeah.
and rust, and so we kind of got it down. And I had a little Nissan truck. I think it was purple, because I think we all called it plum ugly.
Yeah.
It's just it was a back and forth to work
Yeah,
truck, but it
yeah.
was fun, 4-wheel drive. Well, we put one on there, and it dropped my fuel down 10. I got a 10 extra miles per gallon.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just goofing around.
Yeah.
Well, I was driving it home. I worked in Marion, and I was driving back on the interstate. And right as I got just close to Grand Rivers there, the exit started overheating. And then all of a sudden, maxed. So 300 plus
Oh,
at
yeah.
least.
Yeah.
So I get it off the road. It's a Friday. I remember that. I get off the road up at one of the gas stations, and I lift the hood, and I'm looking around to see what's going on. And that thing that we had built was sitting right next to the radiator, and I guess it had sat there and vibrated and damaged the radiator. All I know is that at one point, that radiator, the hose and the tap broke and come straight up and hit me right here.
Oh, no.
Yeah, all over. And I'm like, crap. And then I'm like, oh shit. And I start,
Oh, yeah.
shedding clothes. Yeah, I think that was the plan. Yeah. So, and I was well, it was definitely the worst physical thing that ever happened to me,
Oh,
because I had
man.
third-degree burns all over
Oh,
my
man.
stomach.
Yeah.
I had bags of blisters.
Phew.
It was a tough one, but, it just a split second.
Oh, quick.
I've
Yeah.
seen a guy one time we had airbag to lift up the side of a car for a frame rack
Yeah.
to put the and you'd pull that, and you'd stick your airline in, and it had a valve, and you open the valve, had a little 2x4 on the pinch weld,
Yeah.
lift up the whole side of the car so you could put that was valve was left open, and when he plugged in, it starts picking up. Well, now the pinch weld hits him right here, and he picks
Oh,
up the whole side of the car.
oh, man.
And I hear him. Of course, you're in a loud shop. I hear, just a little
Yeah.
grunt, and he wouldn't dare yell out, in
Yeah.
pain. So I go up there. By the time I'm up there, he's unlatched it. But the only way you get that to go down is you got to let it bleed off. So it's
Oh,
sitting there with
man.
his arm stuck in there, going, psh, just slowly coming
It's gotta be
down.
painful, man.
Yeah, he literally had that big of, and that didn't break the skin, but it had made an impression on
Oh,
his
I can
arm all the way
imagine.
down. So many things.
My mom had a little Hyundai. She had a Mustang growing up, but there for a little while she had this little red. It was like Hyundai's first car, a little bitty, like almost like a Civic. And me and my little brother were doing something in the trunk. We were young. My brother's 4 years younger than me, so let's just say I'm 10, he's 6. And we were getting something out. I think we'd been grocery shopping. We're getting the last groceries for mom, and he shut the trunk on my
Oh,
hand, and that old cheap car, it had bent, but I mean it's hurting. I'm screaming, and it locked it, and the keys are inside.
oh my
Oh yeah, and
God.
so the door's locked. We can't get in there, and I'm screaming in pain. 10 years old. My brother, he's screaming too because he don't know what to do.
Nobody would
Yeah, I'm like,
know.
stop screaming, go get the keys, man.
Yeah,
And yeah, so that's funny, man. We joke about that all the time, but things happen fast. I was thinking about his arm getting pinched, and
yeah.
yeah, that hand. That's some funny stuff there,
So
man.
if you know Therese Swanson, which we talked
Yeah,
about,
yeah, yeah.
uh, her she's married to Caleb Swanson.
Yeah, the family owns the.
Yeah, the Swanson's line. Well, I first started. That's where I first started cars, with
Okay,
working
cool.
for Ronnie Swanson, the
Yeah, yeah,
original
yeah.
owner. And I talk about him every once in a while, but probably the most mechanical wizard
Yeah.
I've ever worked for out of
Yeah.
everybody. And he could just it's an amazing to watch him work.
Yeah.
He's semi-retired now though,
That's
but
pretty.
they do semis there too, and
Yeah.
they align semis. And I'm not sure if you've ever seen that. I used to
No,
do
I've never
it.
seen it done. Yeah.
There's a big I-beam, that you set, and you got cleat clevises that go over the axle, and you got two 200-pound rams. We'll look it up. There's some 200-pound rams that you put in there, and if you want less camber, you hold this one and you elevate, and it just bends that axle in. So you
Really.
can imagine how
Yeah.
much
A bunch of
pressure.
force. Yeah.
200 tons each.
Yeah.
So we would have these little plates of steel we'd put between the ram and it would start here and it would squeeze down. And anyhow, I had left. I'd come back to visit, and I was talking to him, and he said one of those pieces of metal broke
Oh.
at 200. So you're like,
Yeah.
200 tons, it breaks. One piece, the guys were sitting in the pit. One piece goes between their head and goes into the concrete,
Man.
buries into the concrete. The other piece shoots through the whole shop, 100-foot shop, out the door, the garage door, and never found again.
Wow.
He said it sounded like a cannon went
Oh, I
off,
can imagine.
So
Yeah.
he comes running down there. Both of the dudes are laying in the floor, breathing, like hyperventilating, flushed white, and scared the shit out
Oh,
of
I
them.
bet.
So
Yeah.
they
Absolutely.
thought it was
That's
over.
a.
That's one of those things when you start feeling, just
Yeah.
make sure everything's
They
still
need to.
there.
They need to make sure they go to church on Sunday on that one.
Yes,
That's
200 tons. Yeah.
man, that is yeah, they need to thank the good Lord on that one. We had, you let's see, I left the drag strip last year around I helped them finish the year last year. So we finished the 2024 season. And probably around this time, into July, August, we had a guy, he owns Easy the Easy car show. Kane what's his name? His first name's Kane, but he owns the Easy car lot right there on South Side where the
Easy way.
KFC. Yeah, Easy
Yeah.
Way. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And a great guy, and he's got Monte Carlos, and his son-in-law's got like a Monza, and he was doing a burnout, and I heard something go tink. That's all I heard, just a tink, like something hit metal. And we stopped. I was like, "What in the world was that?" I was, and I'm the manager, so I'm not having to work, but a lot of times I'd hang out at the starting line, and I'm like, "Well, that's odd. What the heck was that?" And so I'm looking around, and then I noticed that, hey, wait a second, hey, we need to stop him. Kane's tire's flat, and what had happened was his son-in-law, yeah, his son-in-law had, or one of them, anyway, one of them had done a burnout, and a converter bolt had come out and slung on the to the other lane, went through his wheel. And we're talking like where the lip of the tire meets the rim, went right through that and busted his tire. And I'm standing. That thing couldn't have been more than 2 feet either way, in either direction of me. And there was two or three others standing there, and that thing just barely missed everybody and hit his. And
That's
it was either
nuts.
the son-in-law's converter bolt hit the father-in-law's car, or the other way around, whichever way. You talk about it. I've never seen anything like that.
It's crazy. I mean,
Like
what
that, man.
RPMs,
Oh man.
RPMs and miles per hour.
That's
There's
exactly
a
right.
nature wasn't prepared, for
Yeah,
that.
I know what you mean. Car wise, man, it's just things have changed so much. When I got into cars, my first car was a '83 Camaro, and I've got a '92 Camaro now that resembles it. So I got rear-ended real bad right here on Third Street, headed that way. So like a block from where we're sitting, it got totaled. Now we tried to piece it back together, but the car never was right. It bent the quarters down and messed that car up. But anyway, small blocks were the thing, man. Back in the, '90s and early 2000s, small blocks were the thing, and then the LS has come out.
Mhm.
Well, I was a small block guy for a long time. I had a 383, and a good friend of mine, Preston Edmonds, helped me with a bunch of stuff. And man, I had a nice 383, had some AFR 195 heads. I mean, this thing was cool. And it ended up coming apart on us. My best friend Josh, we'd race 10 times in a row, and it was always neck and neck. Of the 10 races, a lot of times he'd beat me 8 of the 10, so I'll give him credit there. His car was always just a hair faster. But I blew that up, and then as we were trying to put some stuff together, I discovered the big block world. So I bought a 454, had a blast from it. Another big racer, Stanley Sutton, used to be a big small tire guy around here. I bought a big block from him, a 454, and man, we had a blast. It was a simple engine.
Let me interrupt you
Go
real quick.
ahead.
just in because there's gonna be a lot of different people watching
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
So I had some poker people in. I've done a
yeah,
lot of everything, and we have to so I want before you get too far, can you
yeah,
kind of give them an idea what you're talking about? So you've talked about a small block Chevy,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
which there's some memes out about now. I don't know if you've heard them
Oh
recent.
yeah,
Yeah, they're
yeah,
hilarious. An LS
yeah, yeah,
with, and then the big block. Kind of
yeah,
tell me if you don't mind. Kind of give at least the people listening a little
yes.
idea of what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. You know, with small block stuff, we're talking about just good old 350s. You know,
right.
good old found in well, the famous ones were found in good old truck motors. You know, and stuff. But that was kind of the staple, the good all around platform for drag racing. It
Yeah,
sounds good. A good V8, a good 350 V8 makes what maybe 300 horsepower.
300.
You
Yeah,
know, so I mean that's pretty healthy for. And even in today's world, I always say in the horsepower world, everybody thinks 400 and 500 horsepower is a lot. It is,
mm,
but there's generally 90% of the people out here who've never been in hot rods. They have never felt 300 horsepower to the tire. It's just something
right.
they've never really felt
I
that. You know, my wife's Trailblazer, I drove it today, and it makes right at 400 horsepower.
Yeah, it didn't sound like your normal.
Yeah, yeah,
So I said, "I
it
think
runs
he's here,
pretty good.
Tristan."
She's a hot rodder at heart
Yeah,
too.
that's
She's
cool.
and that's what she said. She said, "You want to drive the Trailblazer?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm not gonna turn that opportunity down."
Yeah,
But in the good standard 350 or the small block Chevy, and the small block Chevy could come in, a 283, a 305, a 350, the 400. And what I had was a 383, so that was real common of you took a 350 block and put a 400 crank in it. You changed that stroke, and those things were RPM monsters. They were
yeah,
really good. I had some really good flowing heads. So man, and to think of an engine, the best way Preston Edmonds explained it to me this way, but the best way to understand a hot rod engine is it's just an air pump. The faster you can get air in and the faster you can get air out, the most efficiently, that's how you make horsepower. One can sound good, but if it's restricted in certain ways, so you want it all to match up. So I had this 383 that we spent a lot of time on. I was young. How old are you? 25. Okay, so I was a little younger than you even when I was putting this together, but I thought this thing was the bee's knees. And I don't even know why the bee's knees are cool, but they are.
I'll tell you
So,
later.
okay, yeah, tell me that. I need to
Yeah,
know that. But it was cool, and I ended up tearing that up racing my best friend. And it's okay. I mean, that happens when you're pushing these engines to the limit. You're gonna tear them up. Something's gonna happen. So we found a big block, and now big block Chevrolets come in a lot of. It was a good grain truck motor,
yeah,
but they come in a lot of stuff you work on. Probably the early
a lot of
Chevelles.
yeah. I got a lot of 454s, 440s.
Yeah, yeah, in cubic inch, they always say there's no displacement or there's no replacement for displacement. Well, that's
Yeah,
been disproved, but we'll talk about that later. But power adders have changed the world on
yeah,
that.
there's
But
so many different things that plays
man,
the factor.
it's wild, man.
Yeah,
But back in the day, all you pretty much had, I mean, nitrous, you could run nitrous in the 80s and 70s and 80s and stuff, but it was primitive back then. And you made a lot of mistakes back then that
yeah,
because they're learning. Now I wouldn't be excuse me. I wouldn't be afraid to put nitrous on a stock Civic because now once you understand the concept of it,
right.
you pull some time in and make sure you got good fuel. Anything will take a little bit of nitrous. That's a cool fun fact too to remind. Cause
Yeah,
that could, yeah.
yeah,
But so with the hot rod world, we went to a big block, and big blocks were, where the small blocks stop at the 400 cubic inch. The big blocks start at like, I think there was a 402, but then they start in the 400 cubic inch stuff. So I started with a 454. So that's
probably the most common.
probably the most common. Yeah, we're a 350 piston is what 4-inch bore.
Yeah,
We're a 454. Now we're getting a lot bigger. I couldn't tell you the numbers on that one, but it's a lot bigger of a piston. Bigger parts equal bigger horsepower. More
right.
air you can move. So a big block, it was awesome, man. It was cool. You got a
The
70s Camaro with a big
sound
the
too.
sound. Yeah, the sounds of the two are just totally different. And the torque. That big block really wasn't as powerful as my 3 to 3 because it wasn't dressed up as nice. It didn't have the heads, but it was still cool. It sounded good. It was torquey. It was fun to drive. It was reliable. Well, of course, as a normal hot rodder, you can't leave nothing alone. You
Sure,
understand how that is.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It's always better.
Always better. You're always working on them. So I bought another engine from a good friend of mine, and it was a 489, and this thing was cool. So I messed with it for a while. And a 489 is like a 454 with a bigger stroke crank in it, and it's got a lot of big blocks go from what 402s or 396s actually to 402s. They'll go all the way up to I think the factory that was a 502. I think was probably the biggest big block they
Yeah,
made, wasn't it?
I don't think I've ever heard of anything bigger than that.
Yeah, yeah. Some of the boats had some like
Mhm.
572s or
Yeah,
something, but I
yeah.
think those are aftermarket motors. But that 489 was a really cool engine, made a lot of power. But what's bad in my this is a Cody Cherry opinion only, so this is not to
All right,
affect
good.
anybody
Hope
else's opinion.
maybe it'll be controversial.
It could be,
Mm.
but a big block Chevrolet, small block Chevrolet, anything old school conventional, you can't get it to quit leaking. It's always going to leak. I mean,
You
it
know,
just
it's funny you say that because I can remember back. I look at motors now. You get in, you get done,
yeah,
you get back
clean.
clean.
Yeah, yeah.
When I was a kid, every freaking motor you worked
Yeah.
on, you changed race. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm
man.
not trying to be bad, but you would get in there and it was just so much
Oh, dude,
everywhere,
you'd be all over you. Yeah,
everywhere,
you
and it
couldn't
just
change plugs without being that deep in oil.
yeah, it's
It's
weird
wild,
like
yeah.
that. I don't know.
So, and that was the problem. It's not the reason I got rid of the 454, but my buddy Josh, and I have to give him a good shout out. He may listen, but Josh has always been he's kind of one of them wizards. It seems like all my friends are a lot sharper than me with hot rods. The Brian Stroud I mentioned earlier, the Dustin Dillo, the Josh Coble, the Jason Douglas. If those four guys, I do not put myself with those guys, but if those four guys can't figure something out, or Preston Edmonds too, if those guys can't figure it out, buddy, you're in trouble because
Right?
those guys they're wizards, and different. They have their different specialties there. But that big block, man, was cool. But it would leave its mark anywhere you went. So it was just something you battled. And then come the good old LS world. Now the LS is
Yeah.
just the mod you deal with them all the time.
I'm battling one right now. I know
Oh
you've
yeah,
helped me out a little bit on
yeah,
some
yeah.
references there, but I'm still
Well, they can be
stick.
finicky. Once you get the hang of them, they seem like they're pretty simple, but there is the learning curve because they're the same but different, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. They're a lot better designed. They have their quirks, everything. Here's what we always say. I'm a Chevrolet guy, kind of, but I like them all. I love Fords, I love Dodges, I
sure,
love all Plymouths and all. I love it all. I lean more towards Chevys because I understand them more, but I like them all. But having said that, they're all junk to an extent. Every one of them's
sure.
got their problem. My brother called me the other day, and his girlfriend's wanting to buy a new car. What should we buy, buddy? That's up to you.
Yeah,
Because every one of them's gonna have their problems. Every one of them's and that's just life. But um, so we moved to LS world, and all the LS is, if no one knows what an LS is the LS is the new small block Chevy. It's the new GM V8 platform. That's all it is. They come out and I think they started putting them in 98, 90, uh, maybe some early 97, late or in 98s. They started putting them in Camaros and Corvettes and stuff, and they were a 5.7 base then, which was the same cubic inch as the small block Chevy or the 350.
right.
And then they moved to like the 5.3s, excuse me, the 4.8s and the 5.3s and the 6 liters. And there's a lot of argument there that they say an LS 5.3 isn't an LS motor. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah, it's like an LT, something like that.
Yeah,
Kind of
they call
weird.
it something else, but if that 5.3 head can go right on that 6 liter, like you can interchange parts, then it's in the same family. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's another Cody Cherry opinion. But
right.
if you can interchange parts, they're in the same family.
Sure.
So, but those engines are just they don't leak like we were talking about. They will if they're got some age on them, but
Yeah,
if you got to reseal them up about every 200,000 miles, but then you're good.
yeah,
And they're just so much more reliable. They make so much more power. They require less maintenance, if you will. You give them some good fuel, a little bit of compression, kind of like the old 350s. As long as they had compression, something that resembled gasoline, they would run.
right.
And kind of like the LSs, they're the same way. As long as they have a little bit of oil in them, uh, some okay compression, and something that'll spark, they'll run.
They'll
So
kick
that's
off. Well, the LS is too. Being a modern, more modern, you're seeing everything being more electronic, going to
yeah,
electronic fuel injection. You're getting away from the carburetors, which is much more efficient, or
yeah,
not as necessarily, but much more reliable.
yeah.
That's where a lot of my builds come in. These guys, they want to get in, they want to start it.
That's
They don't
right.
want to pump the gas and
Hmm.
try to figure out how many times have you ever had someone give you the keys to a vehicle and say, "All right, now here's
Here's a trick to
how
it.
you start it."
Yeah,
It's not just turn the key. You got to pump it there 3 times and then give it a little gas. There's a little nuance to a lot of them. That's not the case usually with the LS.
yeah,
It's just
man.
started up. But then everything being a lot more electronic, you have to have a different skill set
It's
to be able
true.
to work
Yeah,
on them.
yeah.
So
The only good thing about that is, I would have been one of those guys years ago that'd been afraid of wiring.
mm,
Like I don't want to mess with this wiring. I don't, it's looks Chinese to me. I don't know. I don't understand it. You can read a diagram, but it looks like it's in a different language. And what I've noticed about that is of course nobody likes what they don't understand. That's just
sure,
that's in life in general. But in the hot rod world, once you understand, you take a guy like you or some of these older guys that like carburetors, and once you understand that you can convert your knowledge of carburetors to fuel injection, a light bulb will go off. You're like,
right,
okay, so the accelerator pump, when you slam on the when you give it gas, that accelerator pump is to give it more fuel, so more than the usual Venturi I ever say the Venturis are given. You know, that it gives it an extra shot of fuel, that way you get a little more horsepower as you're taking off. It needs that
Right. Little
little bit
bump.
of a grunt, you know? Well, once you understand that's just, you can manipulate that in fuel injection with a computer. Once you can,
Right.
you can see what's going on. Where a carburetor, you're going to have to listen to it. Let's
Yeah.
make a pass. Let's look at a plug. Well, that's what an O2 sensor's for. It's kind of telling you, how rich are we? How lean are we? And somebody like you, or in some of especially your generation, then I was a carburetor guy too. I was probably the last of the carburetor guys, my age. But once you understand that, man, fuel injection becomes so simple
Yeah.
because fuel injection, where it has a really cool aspect, it tells you what's wrong for the most part.
Right.
It gives you hints where, like we were talking earlier,
Yeah.
if you go outside, 1979 and your truck wouldn't start, it's just process of elimination. Well, does it have, okay, the battery's charged, or does it have fuel? Is it getting fuel? Is it,
Yeah. Fire, air,
yeah,
fuel.
it's
Yeah.
right. And we got to check all this stuff. Where now, I worked for Snap On Tools and I was a diagnostic manager there at the end. I did that for 3 years, I think. And what's cool about new vehicles is they'll tell you what's wrong
Yeah.
for the most part.
Sure.
And that's a really cool aspect. When where it's running funny and you look down or you've got a scanner, and it tells you, hey, cylinder three's missing. Well, man, all the
Yeah.
guesswork's out
Yeah.
now.
You don't have
We're
to
not
touch it.
swapping plugs or
Sure.
have you ever used the water on the header trick to
Yeah.
see which one's
Yeah.
heating up? There you go.
Yeah.
All that's out the
Yeah.
window. Those are still tricks to know that y'all need to know.
Yeah.
But
It's a lot of little things like that, like when checking the temperature between catalytic,
yeah,
front and back.
there
You
you
can
go.
immediately
Yeah,
tell. There's a lot of little stuff like that. But the thing is, with what I've grew up with, so I grew up motors, and I knew the basics and the principle of what it took to do it, but more so in framework and body work and stuff like
yeah,
that. And I tell people, especially when I got a new guy in who's wanting to learn body work, I like, okay, here's the thing. A body man is more like an artist than he is a mechanic,
that's true. Yeah,
because mechanics have torque ratings, lefty, right, loosey, righty, tight. There is hard angles, is what I'm trying. So a mechanic has, this does this, and you turn it this much. Where when you're doing body work, it's not like that. Other than maybe you've got a straight edge you can put on there, but you're feeling it. You're not, I'll
that's
look
right.
away when I feel body work.
Yeah,
I'm trying to contour it a certain way or make a certain line.
yeah,
I've done both, and they're completely different
yeah,
on how they work. Now they're very similar people,
yeah. That's true.
but
Yeah.
they're still car people, but they're completely different on how that works.
Yeah,
It's really weird.
it really is. Body work is more. There's more manuals to mechanic work.
Yeah,
Mechanic work. You can get a book, you can get a manual, you can watch a video, and they're going to show you step by step. It's just nuts and bolts.
yeah.
Where body work is not that way.
It's hard
It's a you're going to
and
work with some stuff that me and him may hit. He may hit a deer tonight, and I hit a deer tomorrow night in the same vehicle, and it's going to totally.
completely
It's
different.
that car is going to react a totally
Yeah,
different way, and the repair is going to be totally different.
yeah. And the person doing it, I've got people from all over the United States, and I've had different ones. Everybody does it a little bit different.
Yeah,
I mean, it's similar, and some people will argue with you. Like, well, you got to do. You can't put that on this material or that material.
yeah.
And then you get into the paint, man, and then
Oh man.
paint is just I've got, I would say without a doubt, the best all-around painter working for me right now. He's pretty much my resident asshole, though. I tell everybody
Yeah.
when you come in, "This is Pat." He doesn't even know what he's saying. He just you know,
Ignore
and
Pat.
he is the most precise. Much I'd rather that than the
Yeah,
opposite.
that's right. Yeah,
I'd rather him spend 2 hours more than he should have than 2 hours more than he shouldn't have, so
yeah.
but even then, I mean, it's still you got slight variances in humidity, slight variances in
Oh yeah.
product, just those all change, and all of a sudden you're running into, fish eyes, like,
Oh
"Where'd these
yeah.
come from?" And then, the next day it might be, "Why is that shrinking up so much?"
Yeah.
Body men or painters always is sort of like welders, you can either be a good welder or a good grinder.
That's true.
You
That's
can be a
true. Yeah.
good painter or a good buffer.
Yeah, that's
So,
right. One of the two.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it is weird how the cars, and I also tell Pat a lot of times, I'm like, what we do is practically in that practical world, completely useless.
Yeah.
I mean, we will finite focus on a little speck. I'm
Yeah.
talking a little speck that's maybe right on the driver's door, right where you see it,
Yeah.
a little off color, the customer's gonna be complaining. We'll spend thousands of dollars and no telling how much time because of that little bitty speck that really means nothing to
Yeah,
that car, you know?
yeah.
It drives me nuts sometimes to think about that,
Oh yeah,
but
yeah, I can imagine, especially when you get somebody like the car show guys. So I'm not a
oh,
car show guy per se. We go to them,
yeah,
Colby Calvert, he put some really good ones on that it's it's just such a neat atmosphere. There's motorcycles, there's perfect car, there's award-winning cars there. There's guys that just have cool trucks with wheels on 'em,
yeah,
and they just want to show those off. And so you get each different aspect of it, and that's why I like it.
mhm,
I like my stuff a little bit more rougher. I wouldn't say rough, but like the Disco. It's a cool car. She's a 20-footer. You
yeah,
know, um, the Disco, I guess, way before I got it. And I bought it in 2008, so I've had it a long time. We've got some history. But when I bought the car, it looked really good, and I bought it for $1,500. I drove it home. It had a half running 305 in it. I was proud of it, and had 14-inch Craigers on it.
mm,
They were clean though.
those are hard to find though
That's right.
now.
That's
Those
right.
14s are
They
hard.
are. And it was cool. And but what I noticed later on in life is like I guess that car at one time had some rust, and somebody repaired it
Mm,
mostly right. It has new rockers in it. And one quarter looks good, but the other quarter, I don't know if you ever heard of this repair back in the day, but they took a real thin replacement quarter and laid it
on top,
on top of it.
yeah,
So my driver's side quarter, I never noticed this. I've had the car for well, almost 20 years, going on, so I've had 17 years now, but I probably had it for 5 years before we realized, hey, wait a second. Why is this? I was like, man, I got some rust going on. And then I was like, wait a second, that rust is not on the outside, it's on the
mhm,
inside. And it's like, oh, we have two quarter panels here
yeah.
on the same side. So it's a three-quarter panel car, Joe.
Yeah. I've got a El Camino that I've been fooling with for a long time, and then whoever done the sides on it just put them right on top.
Oh, man. Yep.
And that's something we run into. I mean, you get 50, 60, 70-year-old cars, 80-year-old cars. It's no telling how many people's worked on it and what's going on. And I get in so much trouble dealing with that because I
Yeah.
get people come in, they're like, "How much?" I don't know, man.
Yeah.
And I started out, doing some really low prices to get people in, and
Yeah.
we put out some really high-end vehicles. And then I kept going higher and higher and higher, and I just can't seem to hit.
Yeah.
And people don't understand. I mean, I've got a guy that I've got to talk to tomorrow
Yeah.
that I've done 3 different vehicles for, and I've lost money on all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Now, when I say lose money, I've actually put money into them of out of mine
Oh,
to
yeah.
get it done,
Yeah. And
to try to hit that number, and it's tough. You got
yeah, man.
and right now, I had a guy come in, and this is gonna be a good one for us. It's a '70 CUDA.
Oh, cool.
So here's the thing, Camaros and Chevelles and Novas, cool cars,
Yeah.
but they're capped at how
Yeah.
much you can really, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So you're looking at anywhere from 30 to maybe 60, 70. If you got a 69 cherried out, you're going on up.
Yeah.
But for the most part, that's where you're at.
That's
Now
right.
the Cudas, the Roadrunners, those are some a little different breed, and they can go on up. So you got a little bit of budget. I can't build a car. I can't bring a car in that's not been and we start from where that rolls in for less than 30,000. I
Yeah.
mean, that is and I am scared to tell somebody that because I know where I'm gonna end up with the materials
Yeah.
and my labor
It's
rates,
reality. Yeah.
and I'm not even talking about making money. I'm just saying getting for me, breaking even.
Yeah.
So I run into that right now, and the cars just can't hold the value. Once I get a Chevelle in, and I just got one, and I did it for 35. You'll see it around. It's a
Yeah.
black '66, and it's beautiful. It's perfect. I
Yeah.
mean, perfect. But 35, I lost money.
Yeah.
Thirty-five
Yeah.
thousand
Oh, I believe
dollars,
it. Yeah.
I lost money, and we didn't really. It wasn't a restore. It wasn't off-frame restoration or anything.
Yeah.
It was just we tore it down and we
Yeah.
did the jams, and there was some metal work to be done. It's just
Yeah,
unbelievable.
people don't, people think that. So what you're telling me, Joe, this is gonna be a question for you. So you mean to tell me you can't paint a car for $2,000?
Yeah, I get that a
No,
lot.
I bet.
I
Yeah,
get
I can't
when I
imagine.
say we starts at 35, they're like 3,500. I'm like,
No, no, no.
no, and I hate it. I hate telling people that. I even tell them, I
That's
said, man, I don't even want to tell you.
that's exactly.
You
A
know,
lot of times, so being with Snap-on, you get to deal with a lot of shop owners and stuff, and a lot of times you hate to be like this, but especially in the field you're in, it's different with mechanic work. You're changing brakes and stuff like that. Everybody needs that. Not everybody needs a restored '69 Chevelle. You know what I mean?
right?
They want the restored '69 Chevelle. So when you start getting into that stuff. it's almost like if they have to ask, you hate to say it like it's not. I do not mean to seem arrogant at all, but if you have to ask what it's going to cost, you're probably not in the.
Right.
I get wanting a ballpark. Like,
Yeah.
hey,
Give me a budget on
is
this.
this going to
Yeah.
be 20,000 or be 60,000?
Yeah.
But if you're trying to nickel and dime
Yeah.
everything, 35 shocks you, then it means you haven't shopped around.
Yeah.
Because go to Brad Stark.
Yes.
There you go. He's doing
Yeah.
it too, and I mean,
He's, hitting 100 and 150, $200,000
yeah,
cars, but he's only doing a few. But
yeah,
when they're done, sometimes I have to kind of step back and look at that and think, I don't know if you gotta maybe rethink your directions because, yeah, now we got this CUDA in though, and we're putting. I told him, and he's rebodying this whole car,
wow,
which is insane.
a lot of work.
There's gonna be a lot of CUDA parts out here
Yeah,
pretty soon that we
yeah,
got, factory CUDA. But, yeah, I prefer it though. I mean, honestly, and now that we've taught core into it already,
mhm,
the rear, cell panels, we're putting new I'm telling you, we're putting roof, quarters,
yeah,
tulip, doors, fenders, every piece,
yeah,
so we're putting it all in there, but and it looked pretty good. Like, why you but once we tore into that Tula panel, it was all rusted out, and somebody had put this
man.
big ass chunk patch
Oh man,
on the roof, and then it got down into the intersection and rotted out some of the
yeah,
structure there. So yeah, I'm kind of glad we're doing it this way, and time wise, it's 10 times faster, and we don't have to worry about the rust so much. The
yeah.
rust gets me every time, and
Rust is like so. Someone explain.
cancer.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. So rust. So when rust starts, like the only way you can do it is cut until you get to clean metal. Would that
Yeah,
be? I got you.
that's the only way. And then
Yeah,
you got to worry. You're still worried about pinch welds, stuff
yeah,
like that. It's really hard, and so we'll get a car in and we'll tear it down and then have it blasted, and then the customer comes. I'm like, man, we didn't know that.
yeah.
Oh
Absolutely.
well, you said. Well, yeah, I said 35 before I realized you had a half inch bondo in
Yeah,
your frame rail.
that's exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah,
So yeah, that's the tough one.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's and
This
then
CUDA though, it's going to be a good one for us. 50,000, and he's changing it. I mean, it's complete resto mod,
yeah,
but he's buying all new everything, and it
yeah.
makes life for me.
I was going to ask that question. So that was going to be more like I was going to start asking you questions about
Yeah,
that. So I would say that's probably easier, isn't it, to buy reproduction
absolutely.
parts and stuff like that?
Well, it's
And
like this LT LS, whatever you want to call it, 5.3. I asked
yeah,
you for some help with.
yeah,
We bought a used one. We built it. We rebuilt it. We put new intakes on it and all that. And then
yeah.
we get down. Oh well, you need this wiring harness. Well, okay. Oh well, that wiring harness doesn't. This is a 6 prong, and that's an 8 prong, and
Oh
now you need a
yeah,
new pedal. And it's like it's endless, and I have lost my ass on it,
yeah,
and I think we probably got 14,000 building this motor,
yeah,
and it's just constant change, and I still haven't got it started yet.
yeah, yeah. Some of that stuff. So the LS stuff, everybody. This was 10 years ago. It's like, oh, you do an LS for $500. Yeah, if it come with an LS in it.
Yeah,
But if it's a vehicle that didn't come with an LS, unless you're stripping another vehicle and you're not including the price of it, then yeah, it's going to be a lot more. You build an LS motor, it's going to cost just what it costs anything else.
sure.
But you're right. Yeah, it's a
Well, so this guy with his CUDA, he's buying an all new everything, a kit, a crate motor, or wired everything. All you do is stick it
is it a
in.
Mopar motor?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
so it's the
I
Hemi.
can't
It's a
remember
Hemi.
exactly where he's buying it from, but it'll be everything you need. All you got to do is maybe manufacture, and that's what we do. I mean,
Yeah.
any kind of anything like that, building the vehicle to make it fit, that's fine. But you put it in, you put a hot wire to it, and it gets supposed to
That's
start.
perfect. Yeah.
So yeah. And then as far as rebodying one, you cut all that old metal, and then you got these dudes that are going to complain because the new parts. Well, some of them pretty solid. Some of the new aftermarket stuff, depending on where you buy
Oh,
them from.
absolutely.
And I mean, you put them on there. If you know what you're doing when you cut them off, and you put it on properly, and you double, triple check your fitment, you weld those in. All you gotta do is dress the welds, and
Yeah.
you're ready. You're
Yeah.
ready for primer and paint.
That's awesome.
It's
Yeah.
so much faster.
Stuff that costs a little bit more on the front end,
Yeah.
it will change everything. And I'm sure you've seen this too. Guy will like try to save a couple bucks somewhere and do it and shortcut something, and then it end up he has to do it twice now. It's just gonna cost more. So a lot of times, yeah, if you just that's something I've learned that my buddy Josh really had to teach me. I always wanted starting out. I always wanted the cheap way out. I'm like, well, we could do a Holly system, but a Holly
Right.
system's $1,500, man. Can't we just
Yeah.
do something over here, or what use this old stock harness and what I realized in building some stuff, and then we built my wife's car. She had a Camaro for a while. Is just been like even if you have to wait, save up a little money, and then just buy the right parts the first time. You
Right.
know, if it's a little more expensive, hey, we're all on a budget, we get it. But if you wait a little bit, buy the right parts, life's gonna be a lot easier. Kind of like what you're doing. He's not trying to source. If you're not trying to source, like, okay, this set of fenders is $600. Well, yeah, I can buy them over here off Amazon for 430.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, man. Like,
Let's go.
they're not
Yeah.
gonna be like,
They're
just
not.
get the good ones and let's
Yeah.
roll.
And then you're gonna have you dealt with them before? Are you gonna be waiting 3 months? Are
That's
they back
exactly right.
ordered? All those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I deal with people and a lot, and they're like, "Well, can't you just?" And for years, I guess it was kind of a pride thing.
Yeah.
"Can't you just do this like some type of a crazy modification?" Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I can. Absolutely, I can.
Yeah.
And then I barrel off into it, and it'd kill me,
Yeah, man.
But so now, yeah, I can, but you can't pay for it. You're not going to
Yeah.
pay me to
And,
do
and
it.
and and that's not
So let's
being
not do that.
yeah, and
Yeah, it's not. I'm not trying to prove anything. I can
that's
do it. I've done it before. Let's just not do it no more, though. Let's do the better, easier,
that's exactly right.
more
Because
efficient.
and sometimes that'll come off to people as in you're trying to like, well, you don't want to do it. No, no, you have a business you're trying to run.
Right.
That's no secret that hey, you have to be making money, or why you're not doing it because you just love it. You're
I
trying to
sometimes
support your
feel like I
family.
am.
You're trying,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, and they just don't understand that sometimes. I
Yeah.
don't think and that's the way it was with drag racing. Uh, People, and it wasn't so much money stuff, but drag racing, it's like it's a hobby. It
Mhm.
really is. There's nobody there making any. There was like two guys, Charlie Lockhart and Lucas Walker. They can make some money at it, but for the rest of it, we're hobbyists. Those guys are like elite drag racers, and then they live within 20 minutes of here. But you get those guys that can do good, but you got your hobbyists that we're just there to have a good time, man. We're just there
Right.
to race. And you get some people, man, that just they take that so serious and then they will run a track into the ground or just because something didn't go their way. And it's like, man, you got to understand, kind of like what you're doing or a drag strip, like they're businesses. They're not, they have to, just because something's not going your way does not mean they're going to change everything that they're doing or they're going to lose a bunch of money just to make you happy.
Yeah.
Like it's not the world. I think this world now these days wants, they think everybody should cater to them, not,
Yeah. I need to.
we were taught to adapt,
Yeah.
you know.
My problem is I guess I get that customer is right driven into my brain so many
Yeah,
times, and
yeah,
I had so much going on, and I have had there about 2 years ago was really, and I've had some people really give me some trouble,
yeah,
and going into this, I had a
yeah,
really good reputation. Everybody, if you're gonna have Joe do it, it's gonna be right.
yeah,
And it's took a hit because I've let, just there's a certain amount of, you just let people kind of take advantage of you,
mhm,
and then you go back to them saying, "Hey, listen, this isn't," and they don't care. It
yeah,
just
that's
doesn't
right,
matter.
yeah,
They don't care. You said that, and then yeah, okay. So then I'll say something, I'll be like, "Well, man, I didn't realize it's gonna have this problem or this problem. I didn't know," all these
yeah,
things that you find as you go. And well, it does, you said this, and then I start going back. I'm like, well, maybe I did say that, and I just bury myself,
oh
and it
yeah,
makes it
man,
harder and harder for me to deliver what I want to deliver. I
yeah,
don't want to put, and how many times I've sat here and a customer not want to pay, and I go ahead and do what I know needs to be done to make this car right.
yeah,
Yeah, that's really hurt
yeah.
over
That
time.
that really that wow,
And
it's
I'm trying to do better, but another thing is with my jobs, I mean, you got year and a half, 2 years on these vehicles.
yeah,
So if you're selling apples and your manager comes up tomorrow and he said, "Hey, we're losing money on apples," and he says, "Well, change the price." Well, tomorrow you're making money on apples again.
yeah,
I'm stuck, man. I am stuck for a year, 2
yeah,
years,
man,
and if I can't get them to come up, and if I'm not the businessman enough to go, well, I'm not doing that. You can
yeah,
take it with you. Then what I mean?
yeah.
It's a tough one.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it that can be tough, man. In sales with Snap-on for years, you had to deal with some of that stuff too. And it's like I think I had this saying that whoever come with the statement or whoever come up with the statement, the customer's always right. Never dealt with customers,
Exactly. Yeah.
because that's not all. Typically I would say 9.5 times out of 10, they're not right.
Right.
Of course but it's their reality of what their reality of the way things really are is way out of spec, because
Yeah.
they're only thinking about themselves. And that's something, man, I really changed in my older age, and finding the Lord and just he'll kind of change the way he will change the way you think. And you're not the center of this universe, and it's
Right.
like if people would just understand that life goes on. What it goes back to the needs and the wants. You wanted this car,
Yeah.
so now it's like they act like you're stealing milk out of their kid's
Oh
mouth
my
when
god.
you ask for $50 more for something that really cost you $100 more.
Yeah, you're
And
just
you're
trying to
trying to
break
help
even.
them. Yeah, and they just don't. You wish people would just slow down a little bit, understand both sides.
Mm,
You typically the people, the Karens,
yeah,
typically the Karen, they've never had to be in a customer service driven business.
yeah,
And if you've never, I think everybody in this world, once you graduate high school, I think you should go to 3 months of the military. Not in the military, but go 3 months of boot camp
yeah,
just to kind of, you guys would probably love it because it's just,
mhm,
it's team building. It shows you that you're not as important as you think you are, and it gives you some good, I think 3 months of that. And then I think for like a month, they should be in some kind of sales or fast food business, just
yeah.
to get, hey,
Respect
and
or
get paid the whole time you're doing it.
right.
And just, hey, we'll pay you to do it. But man, people would learn so much with those two industries of
Yeah, a
just
little
the military.
humility there.
Yeah, the military, just do what you're told. Life is so much easier when you understand what you want is not important. And in that kind of sense, just do what you're told, and life's easy.
Yeah,
They're gonna feed you. You're gonna have a good time. I mean, I know that's we're taking a real hard right turn there, but I was in the military, and man, basic training for me. I had a pretty strict dad. Now he was not like overbearing or abusive, or he was just a very strict. This is the
yeah,
way
as
things
the
are gonna be,
rules are.
black and white. Otherwise, the belt meets the butt, or whichever way the butt meets the belt. However, but so when I got to basic training, these drill sergeants were nothing.
Yeah,
I mean, you respect them. You don't
sure,
disrespect them. My goodness, don't talk back for by no means. But they weren't. They're not asking the world of you. They're just, yeah, you're gonna get yelled at a little bit. And at that point, some of that stuff's kind of funny because it's not personal.
sure.
They don't hate Joe Dukes or Cody
Yeah,
Cherry. They're there to try to toughen you up a little bit.
yeah,
And it's like, man, I think everybody needs a little bit of that in their lives and to make life go easier. Just like
yeah,
the fast food thing. I worked at Michael's Pizzeria all through high school, and once you realize that you're bringing a guy a pizza that he just ordered, and he's still gonna throw a fit about it.
yeah,
Sometimes it's just like, "Dude, you ordered it.
yeah,
It's funny how some people just they overlook that stuff, or maybe, hey, maybe I got caught up in a wreck, or I got stuck behind a train or something like, and it took 5 more minutes longer than it should have. It's
yeah.
like, listen, the world's not gonna end.
I know people just, I don't know, they just, and the ones that I deal with are generally that boomer generation.
Yeah,
And
man,
there's some awesome,
they're
there's
awesome.
some awesome, but
Yes, the big buts,
yeah,
yes.
and I call it boomer math. It
Yeah.
always works out in their favor every
Yeah,
time,
man. Yeah,
and it doesn't matter that you would think that, a lot of times you think, okay, well, and I'm not young by no means, but
yeah,
to them, I'm a younger guy
yeah,
trying to
yeah,
build a business. You'd think we're car guys. They want a car. I build cars. We're car guys.
yeah.
Kind of camaraderie
Perfect
there.
match.
You would think they would be there to kind of like, they'd want me to excel. Or sometimes it feels like they're almost like they're trying to do the opposite.
Yeah.
But they're always, and they're definitely always trying to get over on
Oh,
you.
yeah, man. Always. And
And I
they
get and I might be a little bit bad taste in my mouth,
yeah.
after a while, because you dealt with so many. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's hard.
it's the reality of a it's a reality of a fallen world, man. It's what it shows too is it's like to that boomer, and I know exactly what you're talking about. We just call them the boomers or whatever, but what it shows too is it's almost like they don't care if you go out of business or not. And what
Mhm.
they don't see is a big picture of like, okay, so let's say we badmouth Joe, even though he's done an awesome job, and you're the car is the one that's crazy. They don't understand that. And so once they move, like let's just say you're like, I'm fed up with it, I'm gonna go do something else. Well, that's one more restoration shop that's gone.
Yeah,
It's kinda like drag strips, they throw a fit about it, all because the timing system messed up a couple times. Well, that happens when you make 500 passes a night and you have 2 hiccups. That it just happens,
yeah,
it's live, it's less than 1%. But people complain about stuff so much, or, "Oh, they're not doing the kind of races I wanna see," or their cheeseburgers weren't as good as they were last year. You get these complaints and or can you believe it costs $35,000 to restore a car? You get that, and then the more that go away, it just drives that price more. So now
sure.
more direct strips are closing, and really car restoration, if it's not you or Brad Stark,
Big
I don't
D,
know of one within 100 miles.
Big D,
Oh,
and
big okay, there
he
you go.
does
Yeah,
one or two,
yeah, there
but
you go.
yeah, it's the thing. You'd think I'd be able to just set my price, but
Yeah,
and I probably could if I just buck up and be more of a,
yeah,
less
yeah.
generous.
Well, I
But
hope it.
I've had some hard hits, but
Yeah.
we're getting through it.
Well, we've got the West Kentucky Streetcar Madness page, so we're gonna make sure we let everybody know you're out there because that's the one thing most
Yeah.
people might not know you're there.
Well, as far as
Advertisements.
business, I don't really have a problem. I could bring as much in, but
I was about
now
to say you probably turn down more than you take,
well,
really.
right now I'm just so backlogged with
Yeah.
the ones that are eating my lunch. I
Yeah.
got to get and I've got a lot of them out of the way.
Yeah.
Some of them come pick them up. I just said, I've done all I can.
Can't yeah.
I'm at a point, you're sitting over here, with money, and I'm sitting over here trying to, barely make it.
Yeah,
After I
man.
pay these guys, and sometimes I'm paying to fix their cars.
Yeah.
So, Anyhow, well, it'd be a good time to take a little break.
Yeah, sounds
Cool.
good to me. When we took that break, we were talking about the MMA days.
MMA
That's how we
days.
met.
Yeah, that's how we met, and you were actually I was helping Michael Shoecraft
That's
out.
right.
He had
Yeah.
started kinda doing his
That
own
that would have been
thing.
back in like 2007.
Yeah,
We were in Ledbetter. Me and I mentioned my buddy Cade Gruber.
yeah,
Really good friends with him. And so when we come in, Joe, that's when you had schedule change. You couldn't be there all the time. It's Michael Shoecraft, Team Pride. It's
mhm.
when Jeremiah Robertson was in there, and Chico, and Danny
Stoner.
Stoner, and man, all
Those are
these other
good those were
guys.
fun days.
Man, they were good days, and
Yeah,
they were at their height,
yeah,
and they were whopping people out. That was back when we first come to Team Pride. You guys had just maybe finished one of the fights at the Big E, or maybe it had been a little. It was one of the newer fights, and we were fighting at Pure Country.
okay.
When I come
Yeah,
in, they were doing the fights at Pure Country, which is not even a building standing anymore. It's a
yeah,
5-star now. But man, those were the days, man. We always thought we always thought you were so cool because you were like the guy. You were like the well, how would you say it? You were like the special guest they'd bring in.
yeah,
Michael'd say, I remember I told you this earlier on break that there was a day I was working at James Marine. I was right out of high school, and I was wore out. It was like a Tuesday or Wednesday nights when we did training, and I was like, man, that's okay. I was like, man, I'm probably not going tonight. I'm wore out, And he's like, well, Michael just texted and Joe Duke's going to be there. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go home and take a shower. We'll be there. We'll
mhm,
100% go because Joe, you always taught us practical stuff. It was
yeah,
never over our heads. It was simple techniques that we used sparring. We used in the cage. We used just. It was
yeah.
always fun. You always had and you mentioned earlier, and I didn't think of that either. But you said you always tried to focus on technique and then how to fix a technique or
Yeah.
the don't use the wrong technique. Is that the
Well,
better?
what I would do is as an instructor, as a fighter, you just need to know how to do it right
Yeah,
and how to do it when,
yeah,
which is part of right. But when an instructor, you gotta know how to do it right, but you also have to be able to modify it. And I would do this especially a lot of times, even in like kicking and things like that. You have to be able to modify it to be able to do it the way they are doing it
yeah,
because sometimes they don't catch. You say, this is how to do it right. And they keep doing it. They keep doing it wrong,
yeah,
but they're doing the same thing. So
yeah.
you have to be able to say, okay, now this is what you're doing and
That's
replicate
right.
what they were doing. And then say, now this is how you change to do what you need to do. And
Yeah,
then that's when the aha moment would be, they'd be like, oh,
I
I didn't
got it.
know I was doing that. I
Yeah,
couldn't figure out why I always ended up in the same place.
that's right.
So,
Yeah,
being able to do that, especially like kicking, people wouldn't rotate their foot
yeah.
correctly or turn
On
their
the
hip
ball. Yeah,
over, stuff like
yeah. I remember
that.
you told us, and Michael used to teach us too. Like a leg kick or just any kind of kick. It's almost like you're swinging a bat,
Yeah.
and it's like you got to get that motion in there,
Yeah.
or you know,
Torque.
yeah, that's right. Or you're not gonna. It's not gonna be effective. Yeah,
Yeah, the same relative principles kind of play a part in everything we're into.
yeah,
So cars,
yeah.
you want torque, you want power, but you got to reduce weight.
That's right.
You
Yeah,
want to be, you want RPMs, you want to be able to, but
that's
at the same time,
that's right.
you
Yeah,
got to be able to create a certain amount of low end. And then the same thing, like the little sports cars, very high revving RPMs,
yeah,
extremely tight suspension, you can corners,
yeah,
but, the big heavy muscle cars just straight out go
yeah.
as fast. Same thing like even with like guns, you got a gun, you got
I'm a big gun guy.
a 45.
Yeah,
It's a big block.
yeah. That's right. Yeah.
It's not going to launch that bullet fast, but when it hits, it's going to make a lot
Like,
of
oh, yeah, that's right.
damage. Whereas you go down to the nines or something like that, they're going to be a lot higher revving motor,
That's right.
kind
Quick
of
and
thing.
fast. Yeah, that's right.
And the
Yeah.
same thing in fighting too, you got certain techniques that are gonna be those higher revving,
Yeah.
It's like, boxing where you just have your jabs. Your jabs are,
Yeah.
60, 60, 60, 60, 80,
Yeah.
100,
That's right. Yeah.
So you're just, and being able to maintain stamina,
That's right. Yeah.
conserve
Yeah.
conserve gas, same thing, so
Absolutely. I was a one rounder. I was winning or losing that first round, buddy.
yeah,
That was it.
yeah.
That was it.
In the fight world, it's changed so much,
Oh
right?
man.
They're just, they're not even machines anymore. They're more than that. These guys are training at such a level.
Yeah.
Everything is so fine tuned.
Let me ask you a question. You're,
Yeah.
you're on a really good thing that just, yeah, I'm almost got coaches because me and Cabe come over the other night. And when Cabe comes over, we always watch old fights. That's just kind of our thing.
Mhm.
My wife's a great cook. She'll always cook for me and Cabe. Cabe will come over and we'll watch some old UFC fights, some like, in
Yeah.
the days, back,
Yeah.
and we'll watch some newer ones. We will. But, um, so do you think I brought this up to Cabe and he was like, "Well, I kind of see it, but you would be a perfect person to ask." This is just another remember how I said earlier I have a Cody Cherry opinion.
Yeah.
It doesn't reflect the opinion of others. I think in the MMA world, I think, and this is just I could be totally wrong, but you're right. We were talking about that. They're training at such a high level. They're like they'll be like the best gymnast and then they'll be they'll have such high standards of where they even just start at. Where
Right.
like your Chuck Liddell, I keep using Chuck.
Chuck's a good
He was
example.
cool,
If
but
I think I know where you're going,
he was
and
a brawler, and I was like, do you think the outright barroom brawler of somebody like Chuck Liddell or somebody like it, do you think they'll ever make a comeback of just, I think now technique and they're so symmetrical and so perfect that you watch like, oh, let's see, who did Poirier just fight? He just lost by decision, I
yeah,
think, to,
I can't remember.
I can't either.
I don't follow it like I
Yeah, I don't
used to.
either, but that guy
Yeah,
is known for, like, let's throw down at the middle of the ring. I
let's
can't think of
go.
that guy's name, and it's like in that exchange of the in that all that training and symmetricalness and perfectness and technique, sometimes that goes out the window when you really get somebody on their back foot pedaling,
Yeah,
backpedaling in a brawler. So do you think the question was, I kinda strayed. Do you think that brawler style, just wild, just coming at you, and I don't mean no technique, but just not just more of just a brawler. Do you think
yeah.
that's ever coming back?
I think you'll see it some,
Yeah.
but it's gonna be, um so what I would Chuck Liddell's a good example of that, Tank Abbott.
Yeah, he was a good one. Yeah.
Big, probably even more than
Yeah.
Chuck Liddell was a kickboxer who
Yeah.
came in, and that era. Just before we go too long, and I talked about this too before. That era of MMA was a big moment in history for martial arts as a whole. Because you rewind to UFC 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
I actually was an alternate. I got picked as an alternate
Oh, that's awesome.
for 3, I think it was.
Yeah.
I didn't go because I was working, and
Yeah.
you know,
That's
big
still
one of the
cool
biggest
though.
mistakes I ever made though.
Yeah.
'Cause back then, it was a tournament style, so most
Yeah.
everybody got to fight because so many people get hurt.
Yeah.
So that could have been huge for me, but,
That's cool
anyhow,
though.
getting off track, but you go back then, so before that started, before Hoist Gracie started throwing those crazy triangles and arm bars, you had, Bob Wall and Chuck Norris and even Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was the first MMA,
Yeah.
he's the one that finally, but even, all that, they were very restricted, and if you went to a martial arts school, if it was karate, karate was it. Don't bring anything else in here, this is what we do.
Yeah.
Um, and the strikers were big. But then as soon as Hoist Gracie came in and started doing what he was doing, it changed the world.
Changed everything. Yeah.
Everybody's like, "Oh my god, what am I doing?" However, that's been going on for centuries,
Yeah.
Japanese jiu-jitsu. Well, when Liddell and Tito and all those guys started coming in, they started learning enough about jiu-jitsu to not do jiu-jitsu.
That's right.
Sprawl and brawl,
Yeah.
to keep make them standing back up.
Yeah.
Um, and then a lot of the jujitsu schools didn't even learn from their own what they had done because they would not conform to that, and you started seeing them start to fall back
Yeah.
until finally now you're seeing, a full integration of just about everything
Yeah.
in the art. Now, going back to your question, would a brawler make it? I would say there's a chance. But the problem is the technical guys, they're not gonna fight your fight.
That's true.
They're not gonna go out there. You can taunt them, you can do whatever. A good technical fighter who's looking at not $10,000 or $500,
Yeah. Yeah.
what it was back then. He's looking at $1,000,000, multi-million dollar career.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
So for him to come in there, and it's like, the pro wrestlers, though you hear them back in the day, of course, when you were MMA back in the 90s and the
Yeah.
80s, pro wrestling, it was shunned,
Yeah.
Now, but I don't think it's as bad, but, those guys, they'll say, "Well, yeah, it might be fake," but they get mad sometimes, and then they start, "Well, no, they don't, because there's millions of dollars on the line."
That's
Those
right. Yeah.
guys aren't gonna get mad and go and turn it into a fight and not only lose the money they made, but get sued,
That's right. Yeah.
by the organization and the person. Same thing here, you got these guys at such an elite level, so much money being involved, they're gonna not do everything to minimize the risk.
Yeah.
So if
That makes sense. Yeah.
they're gonna watch every fight you've ever had.
Yeah.
They're gonna analyze everything, their coach is gonna have it, and so when they come out there, they're gonna try to minimize anything. They're not gonna go to the center ring, and no matter how much you coax them,
Yeah.
unless you're somebody like Nate Diaz or somebody
Yeah.
like that who still does fight very
Oh yeah.
emotional,
Yeah. Yeah.
very they just about program the emotion out of the
Yeah.
fighters.
They have.
So
You're right. That's good.
yeah, there's always a striker's chance,
Always. Yeah.
always a
Always.
striker's
Yeah.
chance, and you see it often,
Yeah.
but as far as consistent, I don't think you'll ever see just a brawler
come
make it to
back.
the top.
Yeah, you're right. You
But
know,
but again, I will say there is a striker's chance, you
always.
know.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's pretty. That's a good answer. Yeah, because
yeah,
that you
if
analyze a lot better than me and Cave. You know, we're just kind of trying to
yeah.
think. You know, they
Well,
were the exciting fights. You know, and it's funny you talked about the old wrestling like the 80s and 90s. I always joke 'cause that's back when wrestling was real,
yeah.
and it obviously was not.
You
But
know,
that's
and back then it might have been a little bit more, you know, when it first was when you wrestling, just like everything else, has progressed. And
yeah,
so if you're in there and it's, you know, you're in some gymnasium and, you know, back, no money involved, it
yeah,
doesn't matter. You're, you know, yeah, I could see maybe some emotions getting going, but when you get signed a, you know, a multi-million-dollar contract and
yeah,
it changes things. That's the thing, man. Money does a lot.
yeah,
It changes. That's the part that burnt me out on fighting, training fighters and cars,
yeah,
everything, and I don't really when I'm in that mindset, it's almost like I'm on an Adderall, you know, I'm
yeah.
just focused on, "Let's make the best possible fighter possible.
That's right.
Let's
Yeah,
make the best possible car possible,"
yeah,
you know, and I've had other things, you know, I was played professional poker, I've
yeah,
had restaurants, and everything I've done I said this the other day, if I so success in my brain is messed up.
yeah,
Success to me is if you come to my restaurant and I hand you a steak
yeah,
and you eat that steak and you go, "Oh my god, that was the best freaking steak I've ever had in my life."
yeah,
I that in my brain is success,
yeah, yeah,
even if I lost $10 to give you that steak. You
yeah,
know what
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying?
Yeah, I
That's
know
where
what
I
you're saying.
screw
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
Giving and then what happens then is now I'm like, "Yay, I succeeded, but now I got another steak, but and I'm $10 behind, you know,
yeah.
on the next one." So
I know what you mean.
that is in kind of my entire life, you
Yeah,
know, has kind of been a problem. My goal is and when I used to put on fights,
yeah,
I try to have the best sound system, the best lighting, the best cage setup.
yeah,
I wanted it to be right,
yeah,
you know. And the other guy, boombox, you know, the
yeah,
cage all rickety, you
yeah,
barely had any lights. He made the same amount of money as I did.
yeah.
You know, that's been an issue for
You
me
know,
and ongoing.
we talked about Yona earlier too, and he puts on I've always liked local fights, and
Yeah.
I used to participate, and then I like going to them. It was always kind of me and Cave's thing. Then me and my wife got together. She enjoys going, and when I took over the drag strip, there's a guy named Steve Swain that was helping me out. I talked about him earlier, and he was just trying to come up with an idea. And it was winter, and we had that huge hangar. So the drag strip used to be an airport. It's Farrington Airport, so there's a lot of hangars, a lot of storage areas. That hangar is I don't know the dimensions, but let's just say it's 100 by 100. It's big, and it's got that warehouse feel. That you remember the movie Lionheart?
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
Jean
Yeah. Yeah.
Claude.
They would
It's
meet up. Yeah.
yeah, and you're meeting, and it's that warehouse industrial feel.
Mhm.
And I was like, man, if we could get Yona, because he was the only one at the time. This
Mhm.
is 2 years ago, and I was like, man, if we could talk Yona into putting a fight here, I think it'd be cool.
Yeah.
It's a cool atmosphere. We could really like get the lighting right. We could because it had those old industrial big bulbs. They had to light.
You have
Had
to
to
let them
warm
set
up.
up
It
for
had
a while.
LEDs too. But man, I was like, it'd be awesome, man, and have really good lighting on the octagon,
Yeah.
and then the rest of it could be semi dim with
Yeah.
some lights out here and there. It'd be cool. And man, we did it, and it was really cool. There's some
Yeah. I've seen some footage of it.
yeah, it was really cool, and Yona did an awesome job. Steve, man, is over the top. He did a fantastic job with the promotion, and there was an awesome event that, I left the drag strip, and the new manager kind of did. He didn't work the same deal, and I think it went a little bit south. I think they actually have another manager now that I talked to him last night. I'm like, man, get a hold of Yona, and
Yeah.
it went really well because man, it was received really well. The atmosphere was cool. It kind of had that underground feel, and we had
Mhm.
man, it was just a good feel. There was no problems. And what was really nice, and what I really like about Yona is he said, because I was worried about that. You get some alcoholic beverages, you get some fights, you get testosterone, outside
Yeah.
of the cage. You
Sure.
remember Pure Country
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
That was a
Maybe before then.
yeah, Pure Country days and Froggy days. I mean, you're fighting, and there was like a that's back when you could smoke, and
Mhm.
there was
I
like a
fought at
layer of
Froggy's.
smoke, that the fighters were breathing in it pretty much, but man, Yona said something that was really good, and he said the fighting goes on in here, and these guys aren't necessarily mad. They're not mad at each other. This is a competition,
Yeah.
and he's like, if you have the need to fight, leave the building. He's
Yeah.
like, I don't. He said, I'm not going to put up with it on the property, and I was like, I really appreciated that because me being the manager of the property understanding and we have security there and stuff. I'm like, man, I hope nothing. We don't want
You don't
it's a
want problems.
competition. Yes, they're fighting, but it's a competition here. This don't be fighting in the crowd just because you've
Yeah.
had a couple beers and you think you're tough. And I'm really Yona did that. I didn't know if I'm sure you did some stuff like that too, but that was like a sigh of relief because he never mentioned that before. And the first thing he did is we got the night started. Is he said, "I want to say something before we do anything tonight." And when he made that known, that I was like, "Man, I appreciate that. That was really cool." Because
Yeah.
what there's people that on the outside looking in about MMA, and they think it's just a bunch of fighting. You know,
Yeah.
they're getting in there mad, they're fighting. It
Yeah.
isn't the old. You remember the tough man competitions? I was too young
Mhm.
for that, but man, these guys are. I mean, it's competition. There's some
It
skill.
is,
There's some, and
and to watch high level, for
it's
me to watch high level, I get zoned
yeah,
in.
it's
People don't
awesome. Yeah,
necessarily see the intricacies going on,
yeah,
that it is truly an art
yeah. It
when
is,
you
man. Yeah,
really see somebody who can not only just go in there and apply technique, but has the ability to set things up,
that's right.
think 3 or 4 moves ahead.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a chess game,
That's right. You know, drag.
especially jujitsu.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a big chess game, and drag racing's a lot like that.
Yeah.
You know, you get these guys that like, oh, drag racing is all you do is step
Hammer
on the gas
down.
and shift it a couple times. That is so far from the truth.
Yeah.
It's not even funny. And with some of those drag racers, man, they can. Lucas Walker. Me and him always don't see eye to eye, but he's one of the best racers in the nation. And I've watched him break his car mid race, doing good, and his car break, and him getting somebody else's race car and win that race.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, man, and bracket
Well,
racing's not about how fast you're going. It's about dial ins, and
yeah.
reaction time mixed with your dial. It's called a package. And so it isn't just holding the pedal down, you're beating the guy. No, no, no. You're having to cut a good lie and know what that car is going to run to the thousandth sometime. And these guys were just, man, we'd call it printing tickets. They were just, man, making things happen.
So yeah, so let's jump back to that because those are some of the questions I had about drag racing.
Yeah, yeah.
I of course go,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
enjoy it. I always like taking someone new. I like taking my wife when we first got together because they're never prepared.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think it's sort of like MMA because I took my wife to one of Yona's fights,
Yeah.
and Todd Neal, the boxing commissioner, was there. So people, and I don't talk about MMA a lot unless somebody, martial
Yeah.
arts, and talks to me about it. I've worked at places and I've been there 3 years, and then they find out and they're like, "You did that?" And I'm like, "Yeah,"
Oh yeah.
for a long
Yeah.
but so, for her, when we were getting together, I didn't hang out with a lot of fighters, just me and her. I just
Yeah.
did what she wanted to do.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
did. This was one of the first times she actually seen me around fighters and stuff. And you're different.
Yeah.
I'm different when I'm around, and I'm not trying to be something I'm not. It's just who I am. I'm
Yeah.
going to talk to this person in a certain way because I know how they feel comfortable like that. I don't want them to feel uncomfortable. So we were around there, and then Todd Neal saw me, and he took us up and put us at the cage side.
Oh
And
nice.
I
Yeah.
apologized to Yona for that later. I
Yeah.
was like, man, I did not. He's like, of course, he was like, I was going to put you there anyway, but
Yeah.
just a little bit of a respect thing because I had such a hard time at the end of that career of training people because I just felt like, well, that's another whole podcast. But
Yeah.
so I really appreciated that, and of course, it made me feel pretty. She was like taken aback a little bit because, like I
Yeah.
said, she never even really knew. So we're sitting there, and yeah, the first time that the blood hits the table in front of
Yeah.
her, it's like, that
Yeah, oh,
response. Well, that's
yeah.
the same thing at like the drag race.
Like top fuel stuff.
You
Yeah.
take someone to drag race, it's like, oh, drinks, and everybody's sitting down and you're
Yeah.
getting cozy. You put your blanket on, and all of a sudden,
Oh, yeah,
it
man.
just blows their head off.
That top fuel stuff is wild, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one thing I love about it. But I always consider myself a really good driver.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I can drive. I always tell you I drive faster backward than you can forward.
Yeah, there you go.
And a lot of it is, parking. I put 20 some odd cars in the garage.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
But I would like to have done some driving, and I did my fair share. And I actually about 2 weeks ago did some out here on the 4 lane. I shouldn't have, but
Yeah.
I done my fair share of street stuff like that. But I never really got into a track because I'm like, how do you hone that skill?
Yeah.
Jujitsu, I may have thrown that same technique 1,000 times before I ever get in the cage.
Yeah.
So how is it that the guys hone that skill between, is there practice time? Can you go out and rent it?
Yeah. We have
How
what's
does that
called
work?
test and tunes.
Yeah.
So what a lot of people that's a really good question because a lot of people don't realize that. We have what's called test and tune nights, or they do. And man, that's $30 and you make as many passes until they shut the lights off. You
Yeah.
just keep making passes and that it's just experience. So it's just like you were saying, you practice that technique 1,000 times before you get in there. And that's what those guys do, like Lucas and them. Lucas and Charlie Lockhart and Wesley Lockhart. Wesley Lockhart was the 2024 2020 yes 2024 world champion, and he lives in Mayfield.
That's nuts. Yeah.
It's awesome,
Yeah.
and the foot brake or the no box world champion. He won a big trailer. I mean, it was awesome. But, it's just repetition. He's been doing it since he was a kid,
Well,
and
see, my thing would be, I think that's something that maybe need to be promoted more because so I'm a car guy and
yeah,
I kind of knew something about that, but I
yeah,
didn't really know, how that worked. But I'm guarantee you every racer knows that.
yeah,
But the people who need to know that, the new people coming in
yeah,
may not, and they're like, "Man, I'd love to get into
yeah,
racing like that. I do it all the time
yeah,
out here on the street illegally, risking other people's lives.
yeah,
I'd love to do that, but I'm not that good.
yeah.
I'm not good enough to go in there and do it." They don't realize maybe that there's an opportunity to come and train.
That's right, yeah, yeah.
Where if you want to be a better martial artist, well, you got a place where you can go train.
That's right, yeah, yeah.
That might be something that would be, needs to be promoted a little more and let people that don't know, what's going
That's
in,
exactly right. I was about to say this weekend's what's called West Kentucky Streetcar Madness, and we've got a Facebook page. I think we've got 10 or 12,000 members now.
Yeah, I was on there the
It's
other
a, it's
day.
it's a cool page. It used to be a lot more active than it is, and it's still pretty active. But that all started from an event. There's a guy named Paco that we call him, and then Jonathan Hurst. He's a big drifter, and a couple of these guys. Uh, Bobby Christoph and Colby Calvert all started this. They wanted to do. We were street racing and meeting at Best Buy, and they worked to deal with the drag strip. So hey, we need a place where just all the car guys can go. Now these are not racers; these are just guys with your '69 Chevelles, and they just want to have a good time.
Yeah,
I want to race my buddy. He may have a Toyota truck, and I've got a
yeah.
GMC Jimmy, and we're just gonna have fun. We just want to go
I
race.
sometimes enjoy more as much or more than I do. And
Absolutely.
even like I watch on YouTube the fights, the fighter. I like watching. There's a couple guys I'm watching in UFC right now,
Yeah.
and I'll watch a lot of their stuff. But for the most part, I catch myself watching the backyard,
Oh
where they
yeah,
got
yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah. I
even know
watch
what they
that stuff.
call and it's the dudes just swinging,
Yeah,
and I got my favorites.
yeah. It's
I mean, I
it's
could
fun.
live
It's entertaining.
not, and I'm not saying this in boastful manner, but just because I've done it so long.
Yeah.
Most of these guys I could hold down with one
Oh
hand and
man,
talk,
yeah, yeah,
to the
yeah. I
but
know
I
what you
just
mean.
enjoy watching them because you don't really know what's gonna happen,
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
and with that racing, that's one thing I do enjoy too, is just throwing whoever
Having
out
a
there,
good
see what
time,
happens,
man. Yeah. In West Kentucky Streetcar Madness, there's no classes. There's just you pay $25 and or $10 to spectate, 25 to get in. They're actually doing one this weekend. And what that is they'll have the timing system on. And you don't have to race. So somebody who just wants to go show their car off, bring it, cruise in, and you're at the drag strip. There's always good food. And then you can make as many passes you want, race family members, race your buddy. Hey, if you've got a GMC Jimmy, then we'll throw 4 or 5 people in it and we'll roll the windows down and we'll make a
it'll be
pass, waving
fun.
at everybody. It's just fun.
It's
It's
fun,
having a
yeah.
good time. You'll
Right.
have some fast cars there, but for the most part, it's just guys wanting to have a good time. They've got a stock Corvette that they love merging on the interstate because they can get on it, but they don't want to get in trouble nowhere. And
Yeah,
I get that. That's like us.
God,
We used to drag race until
I'm
and
gonna I'm gonna have a confession here.
oh yeah, we used to drag race till the sun would come up, man, and then
Uh,
you get in trouble.
yeah.
Nobody wants to get in trouble. We
Well,
don't want to cause
here's
problems.
my confession. At 19, 16, at 16, I got right down there, Gum Springs.
Yeah,
I mean, a few
yeah,
people know where that's
yeah, yeah,
at.
yeah, yeah.
At 16, I had an old
We call that
Monte Carlo.
Mexico.
Yeah, Monte Carlo.
Mhm.
It took me from the high school to Gum Springs to get up to 87 miles an hour,
Yeah,
but I crossed there at 87, and
yeah.
here was a state trooper.
Oh
I lost
yeah,
my license. Now, I never drank in high school. I never
yeah,
drank or did any kind of drugs. I was on karate teams and stuff, so but I lost my license that over that, and I did not regain my license until I was like 22 years old
really.
because I just kept freaking doing that. I just loved speed so
Yeah,
much. I
man.
don't know why. And I caught myself the other day. My truck's down, so I've been driving this little Mustang out here, and it's got that what is that?
The Coyote motor in it.
No, I wished it did, but it's surprising. It's got the V6 in it, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't.
Well, 4.0, yeah, there you
Yeah,
go. Yeah,
dude, it's got 305 horsepower.
yeah,
It surprised me because I bought that car for my wife, and I was gonna hand it down to my daughter, and I
yeah,
wanted a six-cylinder because I didn't want, 16 year,
yeah,
17-year-old, driving. I didn't want it to be yeah, and I get in, and I lifted the hood and looked under there to see, and I counted the spark plug wires. So I'm like, "Is this a" and, I think the 302, it gets like, 350 horsepower, so it's
yeah.
not like a big difference.
Not a huge difference.
I'm
Yeah,
getting way off point here. Anyways, I'm driving that little car home
yeah,
late at night over here on the 4 lanes going toward Ballard, and nobody on the road. Well, this little Challenger comes up. He just lets it fall. He gets there, and I'm not paying attention, but he's sitting right here, and then he goes here, and he's back and forth.
yeah,
And I'm like, "What's this dude doing?" And finally, he just stops. He just sits right there. We're doing 65.
yeah,
Shouldn't, and that's speeding. I hammered down. Well, it ain't got no, it's got the open exhaust. So
Oh, yeah, yeah.
he as soon as he heard me drop it, he dropped it, and we took off. And I hung with him the whole way. I don't know what he had in it.
Yeah.
And
It
then
could
I'm
have been a
like, and
V60.
then I'm like, man, I cannot get a dry cat. I'm not in a
Yeah.
position running. So I dropped off, and I dropped off, and then he dropped off, and then he U turns and goes back. I guess he was just sitting out there trying to
Yeah, just wanna play,
invoke
yeah.
or
Yeah,
whatever.
man.
But it was fun. But yeah, that's one thing I would have definitely loved to go to the track and race.
Yeah,
Now I went
yeah.
to the circle tracks a lot
Yeah, yeah, dirt trucks, yeah.
because I had a guy I worked for a body shop, and he wasn't really great at it
Yeah.
because every week I ended up having to straighten the frame because he'd wreck. But other than that, if I could have had 'cause I'm not the kind of guy who likes to get embarrassed. You put me in a cage, I don't care who's in front of me. I
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah.
They're all the same to me. I'm not afraid of fighting a man, and that's not pride talking. I'm just
Yeah, yeah,
not.
man.
I've done it so long. But what I am scared of is me bringing about 4 or 5 people with me and me lose.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah, yeah.
And same thing with racing. If I got out there, I'd want to have some time lapse in
That's
there
right.
before
Yeah,
I
yeah,
actually
yeah.
ever drop down. So,
Absolutely. And I used to always say, I used to announce them at the drag strip, and I always say it's everybody. It was everybody's first time at one time.
yeah.
So nobody's scared. We'll show you. And I think that a lot of people have that problem of they want to do it. They
Yeah.
just either can't get over the nerves or they don't know how.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. I don't know when to go. I don't know. I don't know anything about it. So a test and tune or streetcar madness is really good for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then we have I say we like I still there, but they have an event called the Beyond 660, and that's just legal street racing. That's all it is. So they move that from the starting line to almost the finish line, and it's flashlight start. Colby Calvert to get out there, he'll line you up like old school,
I like
and
that
then
kind of stuff. Yeah.
there's no times. There's a white line painted with the
Whoever gets
finish
there
line. Yeah, whoever
first.
gets there first. It's just fun, and
Now I'm
some.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt,
No,
but
no, you're good.
that's an eighth mile track,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But it was an old airport, so it was a quarter mile track back in the day. So
I
before it
thought
was an
so.
airport, it was a quarter mile track. Cars are
Mm,
so fast now that it's crazy how long the shutdown has to be on a quarter mile track these days. So,
yeah, I can imagine.
but it's the longest eighth mile track within like 4 or 500 miles.
Yeah,
There's not very many eighth mile tracks left in the nation that are as long as Beacon. So with Beacon, we go about 100 foot past the finish line. So we're at the 770 mark or 760 mark, and you can run another eighth mile and still have over 1,300 foot of shutdown.
mm,
So that place is long. Like
yeah.
it's pretty neat. So and that's an event that people love because it's kind of a lot of your older guys like that because it kind of remembers them of back in the day behind the plants or wherever. Just and it's a really neat thing, because people like that.
Well, that's the UFC 2, 3, 4, 5,
Yeah,
Triple
man.
L's,
Yeah,
same situation. Because sometimes you get so highly technical, in the
yeah.
fighting world. Yeah,
That it's
it
just
gets a little boring,
yeah, it does. Yeah,
but
and
when you get
especially
that guy out there, you just never know what the hell's gonna
that's exactly right.
happen.
Yeah, like those backyard fights you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know something wild's gonna happen. You're just waiting for it.
And the same thing with that type of racing, I'm
Yeah.
sure. You never know who's
Oh,
gonna
you never
drop,
know. It's
drop a
hilarious. Yeah.
some
I'll tell you something that's kind of fun too that the dirt track does that we do is it's no contact enduro racing, and that's just a junk car, and you do 100 laps, and that's a torture test. Is
that's
what
a
that is.
long
Now I
haul.
have a V6 Mustang's what I run. It's an '01 or '02, but that's fun because it's 100 laps. It's a blast, man. It'll wear you out. But there was guys blowing up on like lap three. They're junk
Yeah.
cars, and you're
Yeah.
seeing smoke and you're smelling transmission fluid.
Yeah.
It's like we're on lap three.
Yeah.
You got 97 more to go, and
Right.
that's a lot of fun.
Well,
Stuff like that. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, I think you see that a lot in our world we live in right now, is everything's gotten so almost corporate.
Yeah.
It's almost sterile. Even fighting is almost sterile. Everything is so
Hmm.
perfectly planned. The fighters are, everything is maximize profits.
Yeah.
And I'm not against that. Trust
Yeah.
me, I need to take that advice,
Yeah.
maximizing on some profits or even get profits at some point. But we lose that whatever it was back then, the excitement. You
Yeah,
lose a little bit
man.
of excitement there. Every once in a while, the underdog will throw a haymaker and win
Yeah.
still. But I've been watching this one guy on jujitsu. He does UFC jujitsu. I can't think of his name. That shows how much I'm into it.
Yeah.
He has a big old fro. He weaves it in. And he's a white guy, but he's just like near impossible. And no, he's not. He's not white. No, the one I'm talking about. Yeah, he's a young black guy, but he's near impossible to beat. I mean,
Yeah.
I look at his technique. I'm like, it's completely flawless.
Yeah, man.
I can't imagine nobody ever even. He's so explosive, so fast.
Yeah, man.
They were talking about him on Rogan the other day, and just how he's making. Why would they're like, why don't you fight UFC? in the actual UFC. He's like, he's making millions doing jujitsu,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Why
And
not?
he's unbeatable, but, he's so crazy technical. I
Yeah.
don't but I'm just sitting here watching. I like the guy. I'm rooting for him.
Yeah.
I'm the type of person who likes people to succeed.
Yeah.
I sometimes think that's a dying thing.
Yeah. I
Most
think it is too,
people
man.
but I like it when a
Yeah.
business succeeds or,
Me too.
a
Yeah.
young person comes up and makes something out of
Yeah, man.
themselves, and this guy here, I like watch I want him to succeed, I promise you.
Yeah.
I think he's great, he's amazing, he does a lot for the sport, and his jujitsu is unbelievable, but
Yeah.
I still wanna I just keep watching to see him
Yeah,
get
man.
if anybody will ever beat this dude,
Oh, yeah, man.
because it will be such a shock.
Oh, yeah.
It'll
Absolutely.
blow up and that's again, I think that's something we've missed out on. I've got a group coming in and, well, actually, we're going to St. Louis for it. It's called the Boom Boom Room.
Yeah.
So we stress levels,
Yeah.
pay rose, months and years. And my wife and I, she had some friends and they invited us up to St. Louis for a day. So we
Yeah.
went to stay the night, which is a big deal for us because we don't have
Yeah.
time. So we went up there, had did the whatever, and then that evening we went to this place called the Boom Boom Room. And I didn't know where we were going. I'm like, whatever, fine. Whatever makes you happy. So we show up. It's a really cool place, really eclectic. You go in,
Yeah.
and then you go back and they have dinner and a show, and the show is burlesque. Okay. Now, when I say burlesque, it's not stripping, nothing
Yeah.
like that. It's just everybody in there having fun.
Yeah.
They get up there and everybody was talking, having blowing it up, and they were doing it all. And they'd come out in the crowds and they get them involved, and most of the people were there were like women on their bachelorette party or
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
and it was the most fun I've had and relaxing, just enjoy
Yeah.
um, in a long time. And I think we've gotten away from that, so much that we can't. Everything has to be, I don't know, so dialed in,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and this place was just perfect. I'm excited about going up there and talking to them. They're fun people.
Yeah.
They don't take themselves too serious.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's like, "Would you go strip?" No, it's not a strip. Trust me, I've been to a strip club when I was younger. It's a miserable
Yeah. Yeah.
place
They
to
are.
be.
Yeah.
The people, everybody there
Yeah.
is miserable
Miserable.
in one way
Yeah.
or another.
Yeah.
No, they were just the dancers and they were having fun in it,
Yeah.
and nobody gets naked or anything like that. But it was just, and that's what I'm seeing, like, why I watch these dudes fight that have no idea what they're doing,
Yeah.
because it's fun,
Yeah. That's
and it's
exactly right. Yeah. It's entertainment too. We were talking about the brawlers earlier. Like I asked you if the brawlers could ever have make a comeback, and it's when you get those technical guys that like take a straight jujitsu guy who's used to gi only, he's used to no strikes, and then you throw him in there, that like that guy you're explaining, if he's a gi guy and he's not used to striking, he needs to stick with what he's got,
yeah,
because that was something we worked on a lot was no gi jujitsu.
yeah,
Because you take a guy, a brown belt, let's just say a purple belt or blue belt, because the brown and black guys they've used, the brown belts and the black belts, they're pretty good no matter
yeah,
what, I
right,
mean, they're the elite. But you take a blue belt or purple belt that they've only trained with a gi only, never incorporating striking. You throw them into a cage, yeah, they might get that guy, but the first time you hit them,
yeah.
they're not
It's just
used to that. We always had that saying, you'll turn a purple belt into a white belt with one hit,
sure,
because then he's panicking, like, wait a second, it's
yeah,
not what he's used to, and that's nothing. I love jujitsu. I think it's one of the most elite forms of
mhm,
martial arts there is, 100%. And but it's just one of
but
those things. It's wild how
it's
what does
hard.
Mike Tyson say? Everybody's got a plan till they
It's
get
punched in
hit.
the
Yeah, that's
face.
right. It changes things.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, those arm bars are easy to throw out unless somebody's hitting you in the
That's
kidneys.
exactly right.
You're getting
Yeah.
hit in the kidneys or whatever,
That's
so
right. Yeah, like the triangle, they're
yeah,
setting up that triangle with no strikes. You can work on it for a second, but
yeah,
in the real world, they're on. If you're on the
yeah,
one
it's
on
a
the bottom,
different
man, they
it's
can rain
different.
down some blows, and it can be a.
Ivy was here, and he was talking about he's a big no-gi guy.
Oh
He's
yeah,
got it
yeah,
tatted on him, but, yeah, he really when he was and it's funny, I mean, he's honest, straight up honest guy.
yeah,
He's like, "When I first started, we were just brawlers,"
yeah,
and, he went in to fight, and these guys were showing up, and he says they were showing up in their Halloween costumes,
yeah,
gi,
yeah,
that's what he called them. And he says, "I'm not here to trick or treat, I'm here to fight,"
yeah,
and then that's kinda how he took it, and he trained his life, but, yeah, the gi can be, and a lot of gi guys they use that. They
yeah,
use the gi to choke, and there's lots of chokes you
yeah,
can
yeah.
use.
And it's cool with the.
I've incorporated some of those, but some you can't rely on that. I remember I had a guy one time, and I was doing like a gi choke,
Yeah.
but he had it like a t-shirt on, and it was
Yeah.
like, "This ain't working."
No, it ain't gonna work at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it changes things. It takes a lot of things away that you might use that you can't.
That's exactly
But the
right.
thing about the brawlers going into the fight, the other reason I don't think you're gonna see one really shine is they're not gonna allow it.
Yeah,
Who's gonna train them?
that's
Okay,
true. Yeah,
so if you're an elite trainer and you're
yeah,
the guy who's gonna, there's only certain people that's gonna get you in that cage
that's
in the
true. Yeah,
UFC.
yeah,
If you ain't training with them, you probably ain't gonna make it.
yeah, man.
So we're seeking those guys out.
Yeah,
Who's gonna take that brawler on now
that's
and
right.
take a chance of messing with his reputation,
That's true. Yeah.
bringing that down.
It's almost like NASCAR. I
Yeah.
don't watch that. I've never been a big NASCAR guy, but
But
it's
then
like there's like 5 teams that own all the cars out there.
yeah,
It's kind of the same way,
yeah,
if you're not from, American Top Team or any of some of those
yeah,
teams, like man, you're not going to get in the
yeah.
UFC. And
There's not a lot of gamble there anymore. Nobody
no,
wants to gamble on you.
and they don't. Even though the controversy sometimes was a little bit made up, some of it wasn't. The John Jones and uh, Danielle Cormier, that
Mhm.
was not fake. That was they had serious beef. But a lot of times, a little bit of turmoil. Look at like the Shamrock and Tito days. Like
Yeah.
those press conferences were hilarious because they're arguing. Neither one of them could talk trash, but it was hilarious.
Yeah.
And I think it missed a little bit of that too. And I get Dana probably doesn't want a lot of like arguing and scuffling before the fight, but man, sometimes that was a build up. Man, that's what you want. You wanted a little bit of
Yeah.
you like give us a reason. I'm not saying that's awesome, the best way, but sometimes a little bit of a build up. We
Sure.
watched something the other day where it said that the highest paid or one of the highest selling UFC pay per views was it was Conor McGregor and um,
Mhm.
what's his name?
Diaz,
Yeah,
probably.
that was two.
Mhm.
One was Diaz, or
Gregor.
it was McGregor and what's his name? He retired. He's like they call him the goat. I just went blank.
Yeah, I know who you're
The Islam guy. He's Islamic and
yes, I know who you're talking about. I can't think of it.
anyway.
But anyway, there's a
But
lot of
he
animosity
was
there.
yeah, it was almost not quite double, but it was almost double him and Diaz, and it was like, man, him and Diaz was pretty big.
Well, that's McGregor
Y-
is known. That's
That
his.
oh,
That's
he's
one thing that
terrible
made
person, genius when it comes to
marketing.
marketing. He was the best, man.
Yeah.
He was the best. I don't know why I can't think of his name, but anyway, he was he was he was a good testament to what it took to Tito was okay at it, but he couldn't trash talk like McGregor. McGregor
Yeah.
was just a
Well, Tito was a good fighter,
yeah.
but I don't know that he was. His technique wasn't there.
No, he was mainly a brawler.
Yeah,
He
he
was
was
kind
really
of
good. Ground and pound. He could
yeah.
hold somebody down. But
When he beat Shamrock, that was probably the height of his.
yeah,
Um,
Ivy fought Shamrock.
oh really? Yeah. Oh, that's right.
And you listen to him talk about that. He himself has a lot. Ivy pretty close to holds the record for the most professional fights ever.
Yeah, that's
He's
awesome.
an amazing guy, leg lock
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah,
monster.
I was about to say Leg Lock King. Yeah.
Um, I've watched him for years. He actually fought for me at one of my shows at Harrah's Casino.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then but anyhow, he was talking about that, and just the respect thing again. So here's a real quick story about how I got out. My partner at the time, he had got colon cancer, so we had to shut down our fights, and I had a big loss at Harrah's,
Yeah.
$10,000 because
Mm,
different reasons. But it was a great show. But
yeah.
so I had Ron Daly, SSF. He bought my cage, so I'm taking my cage down there to one of his shows. We're gonna set it up, have the show, then he takes it down and it's his. And I was gonna fight in that show, and that's hard to do when you're the
Yeah.
guy supplying. But at that time, that was right when Kentucky started doing, or it might have been Tennessee, whichever one, started doing blood tests. You had to have a blood test before you get in.
Yeah.
So I was gonna do that, but then everybody's like, just go to the blood, whatever, give blood, they'll do it, and you can use that.
Yeah.
Well, I went. Well, it didn't get back in time, so they would not let me fight because my test didn't get in. And I had some young guy from Nashville get up there in the cage, and I've been doing this since the beginning. I
Yeah.
mean, when I say the beginning, I mean before UFC, any of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was the guy with the Bruce Lee poster in his bedroom at 13.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
My life. And I've done all this and I trained so many people over the years. And this guy gets up in the cage and he starts punking me out like, yeah, I'm supposed to fight Joe Dukes, but he supposedly didn't get this test back or whatever. I'm like, I've never dodged a fight in my life, and I'm definitely not going to dodge a fight with this guy.
Yeah.
But he's getting up there, and it's just that utter disrespect, man. I don't know what it did. It just turned a switch in me and made
Yeah.
me just sick of it.
Yeah.
I see that in Jonathan a little bit, to have that career that he's had and
Yeah.
to have the chops. I mean, I don't even know what it was. Sure, you remember what it was? It was like 200 and some odd fights, professional fights.
Man.
and to go through that, you can, to your body just taking all that, and then, he fought Shamrock, and he's called the leg lock monster because he has this one technique where he comes at you, maybe he'll take a swing and he misses. Well, he turns his back to you, and when he turns his back to you as you're coming in, he goes down and goes between his own legs to get
Yeah.
your leg to roll into a leg lock
That's right. Yeah.
or in a leg bar. And he missed because Shamrock didn't step in. For whatever reason, Shamrock didn't step in, and you can see him roll,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then he rose 2 more times to
Yeah.
get away. I get it, he get
Yeah.
away. Well, they gave that dude such flack over that
Yeah.
still, making, fun of how he was role playing and rolling around.
Yeah.
This was one of his biggest fights, fighting Shamrock,
Yeah.
and coulda got him. And they did. The UFC kinda kept him out. He
Really.
was like the gatekeeper to get in. Every beginning UFC heavyweight went through Ivy and
Yeah.
then went next to UFC,
I
and
gotcha.
they kept telling him, "You're next. Fight this guy, you'll be next."
Yeah.
Never happened. It's just that disrespect,
Yeah, man.
it's tough
Yeah, it is, man.
to get
You
through
know,
that.
and it goes back to I know the exact fact you're talking about. It goes back to like what you said earlier. Shamrock had done his he had done his research.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? He knew that if he stepped in on Ivy's gonna get a hold of that ankle and then
yeah,
bad news,
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that was
It's tough, and so you can look at a guy who like, Chuck Norris or Bob Wall, all unbelievable fighters. You put them at their best in the cage today. They
yeah.
just it's not that they're not better or as good, they just don't have as many tools.
That's right,
So
yeah.
most like they're not gonna do
Yeah.
well.
GSP was one of those that kind of changed that.
Yeah,
He went to where man, there at the end,
but
he was so boring to watch, but he was winning,
yeah,
you know.
but you take somebody like Chuck Norris, we still gotta give him respect because
Yeah.
without people like that, would we be where we're at
That's
today?
right. Yeah,
You
man.
know? That's where I'm at a lot of times on things, you just end
Yeah.
up it's like, yeah, I could probably easily get a triangle on this guy because he doesn't at his best in the '60s
Yeah.
because they didn't know anything about it.
That's
People
right.
did, but that group didn't. Yeah. And so but how can I'm on the same level as him,
Mhm.
maybe I don't know. That bothers me a lot whenever I
Oh,
deal with things,
I can imagine, yeah.
Same thing on cars and
Yeah, I
everything
was
else.
gonna ask you that. What was the first car you restored? Like, when you got into that, that was kind of
Okay.
a neat question, just
Yeah, I did a
that.
1966 Chevy truck.
Okay,
It was
yeah.
baby blue, and we redid it for the guy who owned all. I was working for Johnny Purcell. We redid it for the guy who owns all of the Taco John's. He had at one time owned all of them
Oh,
locally,
okay, yeah, yeah.
and he had a wife, and she was a lot younger than him. So that was his first vehicle. So she wanted her first vehicle. So the second vehicle I restored was a 1971 or two AMC Pacer.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
and at the time, I mean, you couldn't even get new parts for it. Everything
Yeah.
I had to build everything out of fiberglass,
Oh,
and
that's
I'm like, let's Wayne's World it. Let's put some flames on it.
yeah.
She wanted it exactly as it came off the showroom floor.
Wow.
So
Huh.
yeah, she had a brand 1972. Yeah, and I don't even know. Back then it was probably 10 grand.
Yeah.
Today it would have cost 30, 40, maybe
Oh,
more than that.
absolutely, yeah.
So imagine having a $40,000 pacer. That wasn't anything special. It was just exactly what
You just a
came right
run
off the
car.
showroom floor is what it looked like.
Man,
So, yeah.
we when we were buying and selling cars, we went through all kinds of stuff. I told you about the Bug. We've had El Camino. We've had a couple El Caminos. The El Camino I had, it's kind of a funny short story there is
What year?
it was a 79. So it was
Okay.
that Malibu, that good front end. And my wife, man, best wife. I'm sure your wife is awesome, but my man, I have one of the best wives ever created. She's awesome. So she's always supporting, doesn't matter. She's never questioning. I told you the story about the Bug. She's beating and banging. She's cool with it. Well, some reason that Friday afternoon, I called her and I had just bought this El Camino. It's $1,500, and it's back when stuff was still cheap. It's just 2018, 2017, 2018.
That's not even that far
Yeah,
back,
no,
yeah.
it's really not that far, but the market's like doubled, tripled since then.
Yeah.
I paid $1,500 for that car. That car would be on marketplace today for like $5,500.
Yeah.
Nothing special. Ran and drove, and 305 car, so a small block Chevy. Didn't make no power. 150 horsepower at best. Cool car though, maroon, silver top. But let's see. I called her. I said, "Hey, babe." She said, "Hey." I said, "You having a good day?" And it's not a question I normally ask.
Mhm.
And she said, "Yeah, I guess so. Why are you asking that?" I said,
Yeah.
"Well, because we are now the proud owner of an El Camino." And she just kind of paused, silent on the phone. She said, "So we just bought an El Camino?" I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, we did." She's like, "Why didn't you tell me this morning we were buying an El Camino?" I was like, "Because I didn't know I was buying an El Camino this
Yeah.
morning when I left the house."
I ran into that a few
Yeah, oh
times.
yeah, it runs. And what had happened was, it's funny. I told this story. We were reliving this story the other day, laughing about it. I say the other day, it's a couple months ago. I hadn't realized in our life at that point she was wanting to fence in the backyard. And I guess in my objection, I was like, well, we don't want to pay for that right now. It's kind of expensive getting fencing done. I mean, that was going to be $4 or $5,000 probably, I think. No telling what it would cost now. She was wanting to get chain link fence in the backyard. And I guess I don't remember that conversation fully, but if she says it, it happened. And I guess I had at that time like, we don't need to spend the money on that now.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, I get it. Yeah, that's fine.
Right.
We're not hurting for money, but let's not blow money on a fence right now. She's like, I'm good with that. Well, next thing you know,
You
Daddy's coming home with a El Camino. And even though it wasn't that much money, I guess I had just shot down something that was practical for something that was not practical.
You're right.
And yeah, so it was funny. She despised that car.
Yeah.
And I remember she's pretty upset about it. I always laugh and say that me and Amanda, we've been together for 11 years now, married for 8. We've had probably 4 good arguments in 11 years, and that's the God honest truth. And 2 of them were over that El Camino.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the money, it was just the time, it
Yeah.
was the timing. But man, that was a funny story because she hated that car. I didn't like it. She's like, I feel like I should be barefoot with a baby on my hip with a cigarette in my mouth when that thing's in the
Mm.
driveway. And I'm like, that's
Oh,
perfect. Come on,
man.
yeah.
That's a
But
hard one. Yeah, she
what's
goes.
funny is she does not mind junk at all.
Yeah.
She likes it. But
Yeah.
that car, man, it had hit her wrong that day for whatever reason, and
Never.
it never recovered. That car never recovered it
Yeah.
with her. She's loved everything before that, after that, but that car was a no
Yeah.
go in the Cherry family.
Well, maybe it was just that lack of
It,
communication.
well, it could have
Well,
been, yeah,
you know what? A time that happens a lot too is I think for me, I get told so many things
yeah,
that sometimes it just is white noise a
that's
little
right.
bit,
I
and
understand
and
that.
I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anyone.
Yeah,
It's just sometimes I've got when you're talking to me, I may be thinking about 4 other things,
yeah, that's right.
And so that happens a lot, I think, between husband and wife. And I tell you what, the best thing ever though is I have a calendar, and
There you go.
I'm always on everybody in my life. So Tristan can Eden can now access it.
Oh yeah,
Shelby can. It's color coded. I check it every
there
morning.
you go,
So
man.
I say, if you want me to remember,
That's
you put
right.
it on that calendar. I check it every morning. I'll
Boom,
remember.
there you go.
So then it's on them.
We've started that with the iPhone, the notes.
Mhm.
So that's what we do with the grocery list. We have a grocery list. Hey, she's like, if you want something, it better be on that list by the time I get to Walmart. You're just gonna have to wait till next trip. So we have to do stuff like that. I'm the picture perfect image, I guess, or example of the husband that's like, hey, we got to be at dinner at 6 o'clock. I'm like, when did you tell me that?
Yeah.
Oh, we talked about it last week and 2 days ago and yesterday. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh
See what you
man,
got to do though. I have learned that when they say that, it's like, and I think sometimes they do it intentionally. They'll tell you, then
yeah,
they don't bring it up. And it's like Saturday morning, she's up, she's getting dressed. It's like, okay, all right, so we got something going on
that's right,
today.
yeah,
So my plans have changed. I'm not
yeah,
going to do what I thought I was going to do. So then I start getting my clothes, and I'm
yeah,
kind of watching to see how she's dressing,
that's
and I
right,
start
yeah.
dressing accordingly, and I just play along. And then I get in the
Safe
car,
play.
and I'm like, I hope she tells me where I'm going.
Because I got no idea. That's hilarious. That's
Yeah,
good though. That's really
yeah.
good that she's
Eventually,
like
she
that.
knows though. She knows,
Hey,
so
that's
they'll know
good.
what the hell
That
I'm
means you got a
doing.
good one then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's good.
Got a very good one. We've had maybe had more than 4
Yeah, that's
arguments,
okay though.
but yeah, we made it through them all.
You can't be close with anybody unless you have some, a little bit of
Yeah,
headbutts there. That's how
yeah,
life goes. That's
yeah,
good though. That's great. Yeah,
yeah,
that's what she is. She's awesome. She's always been supportive. We actually put together. I traded an old truck that didn't have a straight panel on it. It was a '79 short wheelbase, just regular cab truck, cool truck, but just And I traded it for a mid. It was in the middle project of a project. It was a 1980 Camaro Z28, and it was 80 or 81. Anyway, it was a cool car, man, but it was in primer, like, and it was ready for the panels to be hung, lined up, and it was ready for paint. And the interior was out of it, except for the driver's seat, but all the interior was brand new. So I'm getting all these boxes. This guy wanted to trade. Kind of wanted a truck, and he's like, "Man, it's gonna cost me a little bit to get this car fixed and finished." And he understood. And I said, "Yeah, man, I'll trade you. I'll put that thing together." And luckily, mine's a '74. That was a '70 or '71. I'm sorry, '80 or '81. And so they're basically similar. The front bumpers are different, the
yeah.
rear bumpers are a little different, tail lights are a little different. But other than that, I mean, they're similar. And so we used my car as anytime I was like, how does this go on? A seal
Sure.
or something. I'd go to my car and look, and we put that car together. And I've got some pictures that I'll send you some pictures of that one because that was a really cool thing for me and her. It took us we probably spent, let's say, 2 months of just a couple nights a week. We'd order pizza or something like that, and we'd work, or sometimes she would cook, and then we would work out in the garage, and it was fall. I think we did
Oh,
it in the
that's the
fall.
best
It was
thing.
fun, man.
Yeah,
We
I
had
love. I don't know what
I,
it is about working cars in fall.
yeah, man. I really would. I've had probably 30 or 40 cars since me and her been together. of just flipping cars. And that was one I really wish. Looking back now, we made really good money on it because we ended up painting it. And I had a friend of mine at Brandon High Quality Collision.
Oh yeah, Brandon and I work together.
Yeah, yeah,
We're
yeah.
good
Brandon
friends.
painted it for us. It was just white. It was just GM white. It was a cool white. It was trimmed in black. I did all the window trim and stuff in black, gloss black, and it looked good, man. And we made really good money on it. But looking back, it's like I really wish I'd have kept that car
Yeah,
because that was kind of we built it. We put it together. It wasn't nothing special, but it was cool. It
yeah,
kind of had some memories. I got a bunch of pictures of us working on it, and I had pictures of the progress of it. Hey, this is when we picked it up, the fenders and stuff were in the back of the truck, and then up till and it was a almost, and we drove it to a couple shows,
yeah,
and I was like, it was kind of neat.
yeah.
But
Well, you are you good on time?
yeah, yeah,
Because I
yeah,
got about there's two things I wanted to talk about.
yeah.
Are we good? Okay, well, we're good then.
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
great.
let's say we can shave some stuff if we need to.
Yeah, we're good. I mean, I just did one trout for 3 hours, so
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
good. But
yeah. It was
there's
just
two
it's
things I wanted to talk to you about,
yeah,
and then one thing just came to my mind.
yeah,
One thing is, actually, there's three. Car guys.
yeah,
We're different.
yeah, yeah.
Are you into football?
Not much.
Are you into basketball?
My brother's a big football guy.
Are you into basketball?
No, not much. I'm not a sports
Baseball?
guy. Mm-mm.
Yeah. Fishing? Eh.
Yeah, I fish a little. Yeah, I'm kind of a gun guy. I'm a
Yeah.
pretty big gun guy. I kind of
That's the
reload and
thing.
stuff.
It
But
seems like, but that's a common thing.
yeah,
I mean,
it is.
I
Yeah.
can't tell you who's the quarterback for the
No,
49ers.
no idea.
I'd be lucky to know if 49ers is a football team.
That's right. Yeah, I was about to say
No,
that
maybe.
is football, isn't it? Yeah.
It's weird too because then you'll see even memes that relate to that. You'll show the guys they're like, "Hey, you watching the game tonight?" And then the guy's like, "Oh, I'll try to make it." And then it shows him later underneath the hood of a car.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's right.
They're different. They're not. I mean, it's a guy thing, but you don't. It's definitely a camaraderie amongst that group.
It is.
They
Yeah.
don't care. I've got friends over in Livingston. I'm sure Probuses and
Oh
all
yeah,
those
yeah. Brad.
guys.
Yeah, I love
Yeah, I grew
Brad,
up with
man.
those guys,
That's a
and
good dude.
yeah, those are grease monkeys right there,
Oh
man. They
man,
love they love
I
getting
like
in
old
there.
Brad Probst. He's a good
I
dude, man.
wouldn't, I wouldn't be surprised if I went to one of their houses and there's like a small block on the kitchen table.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I've got friends who have like motorcycles in their kitchen.
Oh,
Most of them aren't
absolutely.
married,
Yeah, yeah.
so
It's funny. I had a Facebook memory pop up of like 10 years ago that I was joking. I was cleaning. It was a dirt bike park in the kitchen sink, and Amanda didn't care a bit.
yeah,
That's when I was like, "Yeah, you're gonna be my wife.
yeah, yeah.
You're cool.
Well,
I
you
like
got to
that."
find somebody
That's
who can.
exactly right.
You don't have to find somebody that you connect with. You just got to find somebody that could put up with
That's
you.
right. Yeah,
That's me,
that's a really good way to put
because
it. Yeah,
I'm not easy.
you got to do life together.
Yeah,
So
I'm not.
that's
Yeah,
awesome. It's funny you bring that up. And a lot of times, car guys are just car guys. They may like fishing, like we
yeah. I
just
mean,
fishing and some
there's the
hunting,
things that but
but not sports guys. And typically, a sports guy like my brother, love him to death, and he may listen to this too. Love him to death. He is awesome in all kinds of fields. I would be afraid for him to change the headlight on a car.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? It's a lot of times
yeah,
they've got their different fields. It's like a sports guy probably taking his car somewhere else to have his oil changed. You know what
yeah.
I mean? And there's nothing
Absolutely,
wrong with that
because
because
it's convenient.
that's right. Yeah, but
But
us,
yeah,
car guys just, they're just different. So
yeah,
but we don't know. I know nothing about betting. I don't know nothing about. You said you played poker.
yeah. I did
I've
that.
never played.
Yeah.
I cheated Uno. So I mean, like,
Yeah, I do my best to cheat anything I
yeah,
do. Well, I played cards, and I can't say that I hate it because I do love it, and I have a lot of really close and I have more contacts than I've
yeah,
there. But cards was more just a matter of an occupation for
yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah,
It's like it's not digging ditches, and I can
yeah,
make $300 a night doing this. Okay, yeah, then
yeah, man, yeah,
but I didn't love it. And fighting, that's one of those sports that's different.
yeah. That's right.
And I always wish that I'd went into like football or something, a team sport, because when you fight, when you walk out of there,
You're
if you did,
lonely.
you did it, and
That's
if you
right.
didn't do
Yeah,
it, you didn't do it.
that's right.
Nobody.
Yeah,
Oh, he threw the ball too high. No, I just do. I didn't make it. But
yeah, man.
the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was the future
Yeah,
of cars. You see so many things coming. I was just talking to my daughter because she's trying to get her driver's license nailed down and all that, and
yeah.
we got to work on the parallel
That's
parking.
all right. You'll get it. That's tough on
Well,
That's tough on everybody.
I'm supposed to be doing it. She comes to my house and her mom's like, calls me and says, "Have you worked with her on?" Oh, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
we're on it. We're on
Go
it.
get the car. Yeah,
And it's so hot outside, you don't want to
yeah,
go. And I told her I'd set some cones up in the parking lot of the shop, so, but I was talking to her on the way over, and I was like, do you think ever that the self-driving Teslas get so good because they're AI? Those things are talking to each other
yeah.
all over the world every
Mhm.
second. They're
Yeah.
getting better. They're getting better. They're getting better. Will there ever be a time where a self-driving AI car replaces your driver's license, where you won't. And I'll say that it kinda has because I was in Nashville the other day,
Yeah.
and there was somebody called a car, and the car came with no driver.
Yeah, I would say we're getting there. I don't know
Yeah.
how far we are. I would say there will always be driver's license per se, but I would say that we're moving to a point where yeah, I would say that that's a good possibility because Keith Merck,
Mhm.
owner of the drag strip, he bought one of the Tesla Plaids, like the $150,000 thing is fast, insane fast.
Insane.
And that thing would so he took us for some rides and stuff in it. And what that thing would do is once it figured out where the staging lanes were, it would bring him back up the staging lanes, and then we would do the 660. So that's the legal street racing I was talking about earlier. So what you do is you go up the staging lanes, you go to the sides of the track, and you come up the track, and then and then you stage there, and then there'll be the line. That's where we race. It was figuring out like to stay on the outside. We had cones set up so you didn't hit like the markers for the timing system. And that thing had figured out like to stay on the right side of the cones, but it knew where to come up and where to stop.
Yeah,
And he only made like, let's say he made 10 passes in the night.
sure.
So by pass 4 or 5, it had figured out to stay on the outside of those cones. So he would just it would drive itself back to the starting line.
Ain't that nuts?
It's
Well,
wild.
it learned that, but while it learned it, every other Tesla in the world
You're
knows that if it's there, it'll do the same
It's
thing.
crazy,
That's
and if
nuts.
somebody would have told me that, I never would have believed it.
Yeah,
But I sat there and watched. I
yeah.
watched firsthand in the passenger seat, watched it do it. It's
You know,
amazing.
that technology just jumped in somehow.
Yeah, man.
Nobody ever thought you'd have a, self-driving car, and then all of a sudden there is one, and it's like,
Yeah.
"Wait, what?"
What in the
And
world?
then now everybody's just fine with it, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Joe
You
Rogan talks about would you listen to Rogan much?
yeah, every once in a while. Yeah,
Yeah, he
I haven't got to catch some of his last ones, but
he watches our podcast most every time, I think.
oh,
I
nice.
think. I'm not
That'd be cool.
Yeah, no. So shout out. But I do he was talking about he's got an old Porsche Carrera, he's got a 69 Camaro, mostly all, mods. But he talks about the he loves the I don't know if it's Carrera, it's a Porsche. Anyway, he talks about the mechanical feel of it. He says
Yeah,
you can get into a modern car like a Tesla and it's unbelievable and everything's perfect.
yeah,
But he says banging through those gears in
yeah,
that
man.
car with a tenth of the horsepower,
Yeah,
but you feel the road
that's right.
you're getting feedback from everything. You're the
Yeah,
wind, the road, you feel all that in the car. Yeah, that's gonna be I think something slowly.
yeah,
I mean, how
man.
many people know how to even drive a stick shift
That's
anymore?
right. It's dwindling down quick.
Yeah, and I gotta talk about my I guess I would call him close to my best friend, Pat, my painter. He just the '90s came, the late '80s and the early '90s came, and he just said, "I'm staying right
Staying
here."
right there.
He
Yeah,
stayed
ain't
there.
nothing wrong with that.
Ponytails, the leather
Yeah, man.
jackets, the Camaros, oh my god.
Yeah,
But, he's talking about how, he's got this Corvette and his girls, and I'm like, "I don't think they like that stuff anymore, Pat."
yeah, man.
It's not these younger people, they don't, and I'm not hey, I am always trying to stand up for the next
Yeah,
generation.
yeah,
I think they get a lot of flack, same thing we
yeah,
went through, but, yeah, I see great members coming out of that. I mean, some
yeah, man.
amazing things these kids are gonna do, but we're on them because they're on their phones all the time.
Yeah,
Yet, everything you do in life requires that
that's
you there.
exactly right. Yeah,
So I think we need to step back there a little bit, but,
yeah, yep,
and then for them now, if you do get a young car guy,
yeah,
I am not a car snob. Pat is.
yeah.
It's gotta be this Camaro. It's gotta have these wheels. It's
Oh
gotta have
yeah,
this here.
yeah, yeah. A
You know,
lot of Mustang guys are like that.
they are too.
So
Yeah.
there's your Ford guys. And I said earlier on the show that I lean more towards GM and Chevrolets, but I'm not tied to them 100%. But you get, and it's Mustang guys, not Ford guys. Ford guys like they're 'cause usually
Mhm.
your Chevy guy he likes a little bit of everything. Ford guy he likes a little bit of everything. He leans more. But a Mustang guy is like that. He only likes Mustangs, and it has to be certain years, certain
Yeah.
this, certain that,
Very
and
specific.
yeah,
Yeah.
very specific. So it's funny that so he's probably a Camaro guy,
Yes.
and it has to be yeah. So
It has to
you
be.
get those guys that are the
And it breaks his heart for somebody to because he has to do everything.
oh
We
yeah,
have all kinds of stuff going on, so he
yeah,
has to paint cars. That's why
yeah,
he says, I can't paint this car this color." It's
yeah.
not it breaks his heart, but,
Got to do it, man. That
yeah,
is where the customers always ride.
yeah.
That's the only place is
Oh,
their
every car
decision
that
on
comes
stuff.
in is the coolest, in my opinion. When I talk to somebody, like,
Oh, you
it'd
got to
be
be.
insane, whatever, I'm like, "Hey, man, that's a
That's
great
awesome,
idea. I've
man.
never seen anything like that."
And you got to be like that,
You need to
because
be
in
like
their
that.
mind, because you're not lying to them, it is cool,
Yeah.
and they, hey, they think it's if they're paying that much money,
Yeah.
That is exactly what they
Well,
want.
if I got a kid bringing a Honda in
Yeah.
and he's got a lowered, got the wheels squatted, I mean, ridiculous. Now there is the truck thing I'm really struggling with.
Yeah, no,
I'm really struggling with that one, but
I'm
beyond
with you.
that one,
I don't think
you
we'll
know,
ever get to that one.
if it's a lowered Impala with the the Mexican design, I don't care. They're car guys.
Yeah, man.
They're car. They just
They're
don't like the
cool.
same thing I
Yeah,
do,
that's right.
or they like something different. So, I'm on board.
And I
But
like that kind of stuff. Like I like those old
I
convertibles that they put the small wheels on. I mean,
yeah,
that
this
stuff's cool,
fun
man. It looks good.
again, and going back to having fun with
Yeah,
stuff.
man.
Why do we got to be so strict on every?
Yeah, that's right. No, I agree with that. I
But
agree. And I like some import stuff. I'm a muscle guy, but
oh,
I like the old mid to late 90 Preludes, Honda Preludes.
mm-hmm.
Man, back in school,
The
that was
Supras
the
were
cool.
big.
Yeah, the Supers were big.
I'm a big European because I got a
Yeah,
buddy who's got a Ferrari, and I'm the only one he lets work on it.
there you go.
Fucking freaking love that car.
Yeah,
I
man.
love driving that car. Just that mid-engine back
Yeah, I bet
there
that's
and the
cool. Yeah.
Ferrari sound. And if you're a car guy, I'm sure
Yeah.
you watched Ford versus
That's one of
Ferrari.
my favorite movies,
Have you
man.
seen Lamborghini?
Yeah. No, I hadn't seen
That's a
Lamborghini
good
yet.
one.
Yeah, I need
That
to
one
though.
is really good because it's more business related.
Yeah.
Did you know Lamborghini started out as a tractor
No,
company?
I didn't until I started seeing some stuff about that.
Yeah,
That's pretty
yeah.
cool.
And
Yeah.
then, according to the movie, and I'm gonna this is a little bit of a whatever that's called, where you give it away. According to the movie,
Yeah.
so
Spoiler alert. Yeah.
yeah, spoiler. Lamborghini was getting out of the tractors or wanting to get out of the tractors into sports because he had a bunch of Ferraris, and he saw Enzo
Yeah.
come walking, and he catches up to him and says, "Hey, Enzo, I got 6 of your cars. Uh, almost one for every day of the week." And Enzo said something funny, back like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, you need one more." But anyways, and then he starts telling him, I have this clutch design. He says, "Your cars are great, they're amazing, but they have crappy clutches."
Yeah.
And he said, "I have a clutch design, and it would fix this problem." And Enzo's kind of, at that time, so not because this is a tractor guy,
Yeah.
and he's kept on about it. And Enzo, and he said we could call it Ferrari Lamborghini, And then Enzo, as he's getting into his car, he says, "Why don't you just go back to your tractors, farmer?" And that was it.
Yeah.
Now Lamborghini had to happen. The
Yeah.
car had to happen,
Yeah,
because
man.
he made all his money out of the track. He's a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
So he hires in McLarens,
Oh yeah.
Lamborghini techs, all the top guys to
Yeah, man.
build this new car. And then throughout the movie, there's a spot where they had this big car show in Italy, and Enzo Ferrari always was the top show.
Yeah.
It's got the new. Now these were the '60s models, and
Yeah.
you have to have an eclectic taste to like these cars because they don't look like the new ones. I like it. I just a smooth car. And so it's like I don't know what year it was, but it's the new Ferrari. It's sitting there at this car show, and they're talking to Ferrari, and above it says Ferrari when you want to be somebody,
Yeah.
you know. And it's going well. That was the debut of the first Lamborghini,
Yeah.
and it was under curtain. Well, they're talking to him, and then all of a sudden they're gonna unleash. So everybody kind of goes over to see what this new thing is, and Enzo's not on at all. But
Yeah.
when they uncover this car, beautiful car, and the sign says Lamborghini when you are somebody.
Oh man.
So he
Oh
had the foreknowledge to know what that sign was going to be and
yeah.
prepare.
Oh man.
It was a really good show.
Yeah,
Those
I'll check
car
it out.
shows are, yeah. And then there's a Ferrari, which actually, it was a pretty good show too. It
Is it?
kind of showed when they had that really bad wreck Ferrari did, and took out a bunch of people, like
Yeah.
sidelined them.
Yeah.
It was pretty good too.
I learned a little bit about. I know this is a wild thing, but I learned a little bit about Ferrari when you remember Gas Monkey Garage when it was big. Now I think it's still on, but Richards kind of went off the deep end a little bit there. It's not what it was. And shows always kind of turn to that.
They seem to, yeah.
But the early ones was really good, and then he took that Ferrari that was wrecked and he put it back. It was like an F40 or something like that, and he put it back together and they painted it black.
Oh
And I
wow.
remember that being a big deal. Like no, it's a Ferrari. It's got to be red
Yeah.
because I think they had to fix a piece on the frame, so they had to buy Ferrari steel. Like it had to be the
Yeah. I've
same.
dealt with Ferrari a lot, and
Yeah,
it is that you can't
yeah. You can't
just
do anything else. It has to like the
tough.
yeah. So but I remember he's like we're gonna paint the car black, and they were like, well, hold it, you can't. Ferraris are red, man. You can't paint a Ferrari black.
Hmm.
And then he did. And it was a big deal. And I think a football player bought it. It's who bought
Yeah.
it, but yeah, it
Ferrari's
was.
very particular about who they let buy a car. You can't just buy a Ferrari
Yeah,
just if
yeah,
you
isn't
have the
that
money.
wild? Yeah.
You have to have a certain, yeah. They don't want people just to buy them to sell or stuff like that.
Wow.
Very
Yeah.
particular. That and then you go back to Ford versus Ferrari. Carroll Shelby's one of my heroes. I
Oh yeah,
love that
man.
guy.
Yeah.
Not because he was just a car guy, but he was just an amazing salesperson, an
Oh yeah,
amazing
man.
business. And
Make it
that
happen. Yeah.
show really, I think Damon did a great job
Yeah.
portraying that. But to know that those five Ferraris or those five Ford GTs are sitting on the ocean. Because they were going to bring those cars back
Uh-huh.
to the States, but it was going to cost too much to ship them, so they just dropped them off, and they're down at the bottom of the ocean somewhere.
Really? So
But
I guess
yeah,
I did not. I didn't knew
oh my
that.
god, yeah, it's unbelievable that
Really?
those cars are, and
You?
that is a beautiful car. And if you do you know Jeff's Auto Body?
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
you been by there?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
It's
go in
been
his
a little.
showroom, he's got $2
Yeah.
million worth of cars,
Yeah.
just high-end
Just hanging out.
supercars,
Yeah.
and he's got the new Ford,
Yeah.
yeah, in there, and it's
I
oh,
hadn't
it's
seen it,
tough.
so I hadn't been in there since that.
Jesus, it's
I knew
my
he had one
favorite
of the
car.
Cybertrucks when they first come out.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, he's
that car is I love it. That is something I do love, those European sports cars a lot. And then
Oh, okay, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
anything AI, these are very artistic kids.
No, 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 that's
My
good,
2
yeah.
older kids and even my younger one, they're very artistic, and they don't like what they see AI coming in for. And
That's all
I
right. Hey,
try to
I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
say, you know,
You
you
know,
gotta
we were
do
talking about
your
new age stuff.
yeah.
Well, I mean, podcast stuff is new. You know, it's
Yeah, very
something that
new.
wasn't big 10, 15 years ago,
Yeah,
you know?
it is, and it's it opened the eyes up a lot of people,
Yeah,
and you see that boomer generation. Rogan talks about that a lot. That they get all of their information from the news
yeah,
organization. You know, and those little 30-second tidbits or 2 minutes here,
yeah,
where a long form conversation where we really sit down and talk about a subject.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what the podcasters have brought, and that's why they've become so powerful.
yeah, man.
And there's also like right now, I think there's approximately 1 million podcasts in the
Yeah,
world, and everybody's like, "Why do you want to do a podcast to compete with that?" Well, for one thing, I'm not competing because if I wasn't making a dollar of this,
yeah,
we would be at my shop and we'd still have this because I want to
yeah,
do it. I like doing the
yeah,
podcast. I enjoy talking to people, and I got
yeah,
a lot of different people I know. But on the other side of it too, I'm not competing with the lower 30%. The lower 30%, there's a show once every 3 months.
yeah,
They don't put anything into it.
yeah,
And the upper 30% are the Rogans and the guys up there. Well, I'm not definitely not competing with them. So all I've got is that middle
yeah,
ground that I'm competing with, and
yeah.
that's what I gotta.
So you're trying to do 3 or 4 a month and get
We
some.
do. If we don't, we'll put one out today, like we talked about.
Yeah,
We've done 21, and we've never missed a week.
that's good. Yeah,
And we wouldn't have missed a week this week if it wasn't for moving to studios and stuff
yeah.
like that. And as a matter of fact, we got a new flyer out with I think about eight people scheduled, and you're
Awesome, man.
actually on there
Oh, cool,
showing as a
man. Yeah,
coming up, and
yeah, yeah.
we'll have it coming soon on yours too.
Great, man.
But we've got everybody, and we've done everything from preachers,
Yeah,
and he's been on twice, to therapists, to tattoos
yeah,
artists, to and fighters, or lots of
yeah,
fighters,
man. You
and
that's good.
filmmakers. Yeah, we had
Yeah,
indie filmmakers. We've got Caleb Skinner.
yeah.
He teaches Machida.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
he's an instructor for Machida. He goes
yeah.
out there and got qualified. He's coming in. He's actually my cousin.
Yeah.
Several others, different
That's
guys, just
awesome,
all
man.
different. So the uh, the last thing I wanted to talk to you about though was that connection you have with cars.
Yeah.
I've told people before, and I don't have the time like I used to, but I would touch a car, and
Yeah.
cars are relatively new.
Yeah.
It's not a nature law to it.
Yeah.
It's something fully, completely made by man.
Yeah.
Whether there's some kind of muse out there that inspires us or not, we're the and there's something about a car though,
Yeah, man.
and you can feel it, you can touch it. I don't know. It kind of talks to you.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that part. And I still really do every once in a while enjoy going to my shop on a Saturday. The doors are shut and locked. I'm out back, door open, out back with the
Yeah,
car
yeah.
there, and I'm welding. I'm building two Bronco 66s.
Oh, man. Yeah.
The bodies are sitting out back because they're junk, so I'm
Yeah.
building them piece by piece,
Yeah,
like
man.
a huge puzzle. And you got
Yeah.
to be perfect.
Yeah, it's
I
gotta be.
enjoy it, so I get that enjoyment. But I go back again to my dad. This is right there. Um, I often talk about my dad being, I'm gonna try not to get, yeah, okay, there it is. Got it straightened
I
out.
understand.
I talk about my dad a lot because he was, we talked about redneck. You look at my
Yeah.
dad, you'd be like, there it is. Put him in the dictionary.
Yeah.
But completely different guy than what you would expect. He was very my kid. I mean, I'm glad his grandkids and even my youngest son, who's 8, got to spend a lot of time with him because they realized just how non-judgmental he was.
Yeah. Because not so much the cars, sometimes it's the people. Like we
Yeah,
talked earlier, cars are they're cool. They're good, and they're kind of an extension of your personality, if you will.
yeah,
But man, sometimes, like I said earlier in the podcast, is it's the people, man.
yeah,
It's the
and
people that
that's
you can tell that you and your dad had a good connection. And did he like cars? Was he a
well,
big?
that's where I was going with it. Was that connection that you get, that nostalgia feeling, that I told you people would have that
Yeah,
flashback. when my dad he had about 5 years there, and I even told my son, Tristan, I said, "Man, just be ready, prepared, Papa's going
Yeah,
down,"
yeah,
and he'd be another year, and
yeah.
Tristan's like, "I don't think I can live
He's
forever."
gonna do good. Yeah,
He went down, and but during that process, his physical, and I do kind of blame corporations for because just sometimes these guys worked for near nothing
yeah,
their whole lives and just destroyed their bodies and unhealthy. He grew up
yeah,
on a farm and then went into paving,
yeah,
and he was taught, big breakfast of biscuits and gravy and so,
yeah,
feeling full was healthy, and he was just a big man and blew out his knees and arthritis. Anyways, but he grew up on a farm, and I got this Dodge truck, big 2,500 lifted tires and
yeah,
all that. And I go over and he's like, "That's a good looking truck, Joseph." He'd be like, always talking
yeah,
about truck 'cause and then he wanted to get it right in a truck again. I truly believe that things resonate, objects. You come to me and you say, "Joe, your life's you're done.
yeah,
Everything's gone." I'll walk away from it today. I've done
yeah,
it 5 times in my life at
yeah,
least, and I had that if I had a Ferrari sitting in my driveway, I'd be like, "All
yeah,
right,
man.
there is a handful of stuff in my drawer beside my bed that people that I cared about gave me, worth nothing to anybody else."
Yeah,
But I feel like that something's resonates through those items,
yeah,
and vehicles are one of those things, and I
yeah,
think that's why I kinda get passionate about them.
yeah,
Is I can remember those old Ford F-100s,
yeah,
farm trucks, and we would name them. We had Charlie, Old Blue, all
yeah,
these old cars or trucks, and I can remember my dad bouncing around, and that's at the end of his life. He wanted to drive. That was one of the things that was important. He wanted to be back in a truck again.
yeah,
Something about that truck is what he was, what made
yeah,
him who he was, and that tells me just, how strong and how powerful, those vehicles could be.
yeah,
And so when I'm building a car from somebody and I've had some bad and like I said, I got one I'll talk to you about after we're done here. It's kinda related to some people we both know,
yeah,
and I did this one from when the man passed and the wife, but I'm struggling getting this vehicle done because of, people on the outside that I'm relying on,
yeah,
motors, and it's been almost 2 years. But when I started that car, and every time I start a car, that is my goal. I
yeah,
know that there's a connection. I mean, this I went out to this man's house and his wife is standing there. They're both in their, 70s, and they want this GTX built, and this
yeah,
was her car when she was a kid, and he liked her because she saw she had a big butt. That's what he
yeah,
told me. He
yeah.
said, "I liked her because she had a big butt, but I really liked the car."
Yeah, man.
And she would smile and laugh about it, and that car was a big deal for them, and they that car sat in their garage forever.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's an important I try to, and maybe that's why I get a little bit, spiteful is because all these others on this other end, I'm having to do these things for, and it's pulling me away from what I really wanna do is
yeah,
reconnect people with those vehicles that meant so much to them in their
yeah, man.
lives.
You know, I think every, I'd say generation or every time of history, I guess, would something was always attached. You got to think, let's say 150 years ago, you get the cowboys. They were attached to their horses as much as we were tied to these cars. And I think there's an attachment everywhere there. The Lord gives us all kinds of things in this world that we can we're you know He didn't put us here just to be miserable. You know what I
No.
mean? And it's okay. It's fine to enjoy things. I think that's great. I think that getting especially like with you, that stirred up a great memory. You're remembering your father and you miss him that's something that, man, that's a really deep thing there that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
really good because he liked that. He it was something he was passionate about. We've all got, our passions, and it's kind of like you brought up something good earlier that'll feed right into this is the football guy. Those football guys, it's great. That's a good passion, but they'll never understand like how you felt right with that car. You can remember a football game.
Yeah.
Oh, you remember in '92 when the Cowboys almost won? Like,
Yeah.
that's not. But cars and like just say horse 150 years ago or whatever that might be. Those are tangible things that, man, like you said, it brings a memory. That guy and his wife,
Yeah.
and it brings them back, and that's a special
It's
thing, man.
something they touched,
That's right. That's right.
and not only that, it touched back.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
then it's bleeding over into you, and
yeah,
that's what's really cool.
yeah,
That's like, I know this will probably be the third time I said it, man. It's almost, especially you doing what you're doing, you're not just bringing back old memories, which is amazing, and that's a probably 80% of it, but it's the new memories you can make, where they can
yeah,
make with it too. When you hand that to them, and man, this is so exciting because they're gonna think about when they were young. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
awesome, and now. hey, they're gonna go to Bob's and get ice cream and cruise around
Sure.
Saturday night when it's 70 degrees and even enjoy it
Yeah.
even more, man. You can't put a price on stuff
You
like that.
can't. You can't. You
You
can't
can't
put a
at
price
all,
on something
man.
like
You can't. That's awesome. I think that's good, man.
that. Well,
I think personally, I've met a lot of maybe not restoring guys, but I'm quite a few. But I've never met anybody that's got the passion that you have to do that. They're just like, hey, we need to put this car back together. We need to get a check, and then we need to move on to the next one.
yeah,
And that's fine. It's a business, you know.
I
But
get
man,
that.
that's good that you don't see that where
Yeah,
somebody has the
it's hard.
passion to really put something back together for a memory's sake.
Yeah.
You
It
know.
and I will say it sucks sometimes because that's what you want to do, but at
Yeah.
the end you just because of the constraints you're putting in
Yeah,
the
man.
budgets and things like that, it
I
makes it really
understand.
tough.
And you know what's awesome is I think it's awesome that you and your dad can share that. You know, you can share that memory. You
Oh,
know, my
uh-huh.
dad didn't care nothing about cars. You know,
Mm.
he didn't at all. We've got a lot of things that now we have different things that we
Sure.
like and share. But yeah, he didn't care nothing about it. I took him for a ride in mine. I mean, he likes it. It's cool, but he didn't care nothing about it.
Yeah.
You know, but that's awesome that you have that tie there. That's a
I can remember working on a vehicle in my where my dad lived in my grandmother's house, and it was 100 yards,
yeah,
you know, and he'd be like, "Need a 5/8 wrench, it's up there,"
yeah, yeah,
and here I'd go whoop, running up
running,
there, and I'd run back, maybe that's where I got some of my stamina, and I'd come back with a 5/8, and he'd
yeah,
put it on, and I told you a 9/16, boy,
yeah,
what's wrong with you?
uh,
I'm not sure what's going to say. You
yeah,
said 5/8, so here
yeah,
I go
man.
back. Those are funny times, but they're also those. That's the stuff you
Yeah.
remember.
Hey, it goes back to that where I was saying about drill instructors and stuff, man. You know, I
Yeah,
had that like that too. You know, and if he was working on something he wasn't excited about.
yeah,
Excuse me, he wasn't excited about it. So if he's working on something, he's frustrated.
yeah. Let's
You
get this
know, and
over.
that was always something like that, man. I was always running tools back and forth. We were the generation that, hold the flashlight still. You know,
Yeah,
that
and
was
you're
our
over there.
yeah, that was our generation, man, for
Yeah,
sure.
mine too. I mean, yeah,
Yeah, we always, I'm classified. I was born in '89, so I'm classified as a millennial.
yeah,
I'm like, no, 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 no. I don't think millennials started till like 94, 93, 94. Because everybody about my age we kind of still have all that
yeah.
old
What
school
would you be
mentality.
considered one of those? No, no, no. I'm Gen X, but they call it like what is Shelby? My wife was born in '93, if you can believe it. But
Yes, yeah, she's
they
still
were
millennial.
like,
Millennial starts in like '88 or '87.
yeah, but I don't know. They said something about being an old millennial is different.
Yeah,
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 here
we're
they,
different. Yeah, because we were the only generation that's seen it both ways, or we were
yeah,
the generation that grew up with both ways.
both ways.
Yeah, yeah, they did a thing on that. That was it was really interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, because we seen the video games start up. We remember the time before cell phones, and then now we're into the time where it's nothing but cell phones.
Nobody could
Which you
remember.
kind of, you remember that
Oh
too.
yeah, I remember
We were
no
just,
cell.
we were. I think there's something about our generation and Shelby's generation. We adapted to both.
Yeah,
Like usually my generation,
I try to.
we can see it either way. Yeah.
It's
Like,
like they asked these kids the other day, said, "So if you had to tell someone that they got a phone call without talking, how would you do it?" And they go like this. They go instead of like this
oh,
because
really? Yeah, it
this is
is.
how we would. You got a
Yeah,
phone call. That's
that's
how we
exactly
would
right.
do
Yeah.
it. But now it's things change,
Yeah,
man.
man.
Things keep changing if you don't keep up.
It does. Yeah.
But and I do worry a little bit about even the older cars because, like I said, you've seen those Model Ts. See
Yeah.
the Tri-Fives. When do we start seeing the 70s and the
That's
80s?
right. Yeah.
And then after that, what's next? And
What's
will there be that
yeah
generation that'll continue wanting that?
carburetors? We talked about
Yeah.
carburetors
Man, I
earlier.
used to know a guy that built a carburetor
Yeah,
and he
man.
put it on and he wouldn't even come out. He said, just put it on. And it
Yeah,
would be on and it's tuned
yeah,
already. It's
man.
like ready. How did you do
There's
that?
a guy named Garland Mosley now. Garland's in his 70s, but he's
Yeah.
that way in Mayfield. But I mean,
Yeah.
man, if he
It's
when
a
he
thing of the
goes, let's say he's
past.
got 20. Let's just say at best he's got 20 more years, man. I mean, like he's a
Well,
wealth of knowledge.
even that knowledge and skill set, if it leaves, but even more so the interest.
Yeah,
And can we fault them for that? I can't necessarily,
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
anyhow,
Fueling it. Have you messed with any of the Holly stuff yet?
yeah,
Yeah, Holly's pretty neat. The Holly HP series and the Holly Terminators and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
They're pretty neat. I figured you'd probably got into those.
yeah.
And they're
Um,
they're getting pretty good.
yeah,
Especially some of that self learned stuff.
so
Or
much easier
yeah, man,
to,
it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. And so for like racing, that self learned stuff's not going to be good. But
right.
for a guy who's just trying to cruise around, go get some ice cream, and
Yeah,
go to a car show, man, that self learned stuff can be really neat.
yeah,
It really kind of takes some of the guesswork. And you don't have to be a tuner; you can get it running.
yeah.
So that stuff's super smart,
Right.
super smart.
Yeah, one of the things too that I find funny is if you go back and you look at the horsepower of some of these muscle cars when they came out of
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not even close to what cars are coming down
Well,
the
yeah, you
road.
talk about your V6 Mustang then,
Yeah,
it
305.
probably makes almost as much power as the big blocks in the 60s.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's
Of course, then
wild.
the guys would get them and tune them, but
Oh, yeah,
still,
yeah, yeah.
I saw an 1100 horsepower Honda four-cylinder the other day. I mean,
Mhm.
no telling what all they had going
Yeah,
on
but
there.
still, yeah.
I mean, that's insane.
Same guy.
Front wheel drive with the big drag tires
Yeah,
in the
oh,
front.
yeah, man.
It's
Just
crazy.
sounding, sounds like,
Funny.
a big old chainsaw basically hitting the
Yeah.
rev limiter. Garland, speaking of Garland Mosley, he's an older guy. He does a bunch of racing. I mean, he did, and he still has a shop, Mosley's Automotive. His son runs it now. But Garland um, is a huge big block guy. So in the early 90s, when the 454 90s trucks come out, the OBS truck, it was like a 90 or 91.
Mhm.
454s come out in them. The SSs, he was super excited. Ordered one brand new. Well, when it came in, it was black. I mean, it was cool. He got in it, and those things were like the lowest rated big block horsepower like ever made. Like
Really?
it made like 100 and something
Ain't
horsepower out
that
of the 454. Yeah,
crazy?
terrible. And he was so like he was like so disappointed in it that he
Yeah.
didn't buy it. He had put a deposit and ordered it, but and he didn't buy. His story he told me, and he may correct it later on. But the way I understood the story is he test drove it and was so like, I'm not buying. There's no way. Like this is a big block and it
Yeah.
can't outrun the
Yeah.
stock Honda, make it 150 horsepower. Well, and what happened is he went to buy it and drove it, come back, and was like, I can't. I'm not gonna spend the money on this thing. And back then, let's say it was $15,000 brand new. And that was a lot of money for a car back then. But they had, do you remember the Cyclone trucks?
Oh, yeah.
So they had one of them on the showroom floor, still a leftover. And they said, well, I mean, that truck runs pretty good. And he's like, there ain't no way I hope it runs better than that one.
Yeah.
And that's what he drove it and fell in love and bought it and had that for a couple of years.
Yeah.
But it was funny. We're talking about big block stuff and how it's a government thing, but they choked them down back then,
Sure.
man. And that was a
Well, they're in
neat
the
story.
80s,
But he's a
all
big
that stuff.
carburetor guy and we were talking earlier about there's no replacement for displacement. That's like turbos, man. I've got a turbo LS and man,
Yeah.
it's amazing on what kind of horsepower that stuff can make. Just
They were building, there's some company out there that takes these little V6, whatever, I can 3 whatever, I don't even know
yeah,
what
three
it is.
point somethings. Yeah,
Yeah, 3 point something, and they put these big superchargers on them. I mean, and
yeah.
they're turning like, 600 plus,
Oh man,
it's
yeah.
and
EcoBoost. I mean,
yeah,
they do pretty good. I mean,
yeah,
they're
it's
healthy.
amazing. Alright, here's the biggest one. My wife has a two-door,
Yeah.
Cooper Mini with the racing stripes on it, makes it a little faster.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's right. It
I will
adds
tell you
five
what
horsepower at least.
I'll tell you what, though, okay. I'll tell you what, though, it's got a, little turbo on it,
Yeah.
and you put it in sport mode, and that little dude will go.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. And a blast to
And
drive.
I tell you too, because it's a two-door, gives you more room.
Yeah.
I've got more room in between the steering wheel and me than I do in my Dodge truck.
Oh, I believe it.
People see me get out of it. I know it's hilarious, but I don't struggle. I don't
Yeah.
struggle to get in or out of
It's
it.
like a go kart, man.
And honestly, taking it going to Nashville or something, I mean, you whip in, whip
Oh
out.
yeah,
You
man.
can park in a bicycle,
Oh yeah, that's
with
awesome, man.
yeah. So,
That's
but it's a
cool.
fun little car, and it's a car,
Yeah,
and those
absolutely.
cars started out as like enduro cars,
Yeah,
over
yeah, yeah.
there.
They
They
really
were little
did.
race cars.
And you like European stuff. They're a European
Yeah,
model, aren't they? A lot of
yeah,
them had
yeah.
that British flag on top. Remember that when they
Yeah,
were
yeah,
started
and
doing that?
on the
Oh
mirrors
yeah, side
sometimes,
mirrors.
yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
they're a
That's
fun
right.
little car, but, yeah, sometimes I drive it. I don't usually do it by myself, though.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You know how it is, it's just weird how
Yeah.
you get that status thing. Alright, so, a couple of, podcast questions are
Yeah,
like
yeah. Go ahead.
generic
Yeah.
ones. So, are you happy?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I tell you what.
I think you took my daughter by surprise.
Oh, yeah.
She's
Get
like,
that get that announcing voice going sometimes,
yeah,
and
she's
then
like,
yeah,
"Wow, this dude's really
perk it
happy."
up. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I brought my Bible in here today just because hey, listen, it's Sunday, and
yeah,
something that really. I'll tell you a real quick testimony in my life is I life's always been good. I don't have I'm not I can't sit here and say, a lot of people can say, hey, they had a bad childhood or something. Like I can't say that. I had a great childhood. I had a great dad. And my mom and dad split up when I was young, but they were both good parents. They really
yeah,
were. So I'm not that guy that's gonna be like, oh, I had it rough.
yeah,
No, I had it great. I had a really good family. Still do. They're still great. And but I was raised in church, and stuff. And then it was great. And but what happened about 2 years ago, it's been almost 2 years now, is there's a lot of difference in knowing about God and knowing God. There's a lot of difference. It's kind of like you guys like Marvel movies, I'm a Marvel guy, so it's kind of like being able to tell you everything you need to know about Captain America, but I ain't never met him. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Kind of like that's kind of neat. So it was so we found a little church called Solid Rock. My grandparents were going, and man, it just it's not their it isn't what they did. They just they preached the true word of God. They took the Bible. They didn't tell you what they thought about it. They didn't tell you their opinion on it. They just read it word for word, and we just studied what was in here. And man, it just when you truly find God, when He finds you where you're at, that'll change your life. So
Yeah.
asking if you're happy or not, man, I'm probably in the best place I've ever been in my life. I know I am, just because the Lord changed my life 100%. Now, looking at me, Joe, when we talked about MMA, I'm not physically in the best shape of my life.
Well, that part of happy too.
Yeah, that's
Who is
right.
it?
Yeah.
Paddington, the Irish kid that's doing so good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's at the thing and he's eating a pizza and he's got a six pack. He says, "I hate these six
That's
packs.
right.
This is
Yeah.
what makes me happy."
That's right. Yeah, he's hey, that's a
Yeah.
good little MMA
Yeah.
fighter. But yeah, man, it just so absolutely happy. Life has took a really big change. And like I said, it wasn't that life was terrible. It was just, hey, I didn't know the Lord. And so I thought about this. I was gonna read this one verse here if you
Yeah.
guys didn't mind.
Absolutely.
But it was 2 Corinthians 5:17. And it says, Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away, and behold, the new has come. That's really awesome. That's just every word in this Bible is awesome, and it's true, and something that just really hits home there is like when you're in Christ, when you truly know Him. So it's like I said earlier about knowing Captain America, but can't, or talking about him, and I can tell you all the stats about him, but I've never met him. And man, it's one of those things that when I knew all about him growing up, but to truly, really, for him to find you where you're at, change your life. I mean, I could preach a sermon here about him changing, but anyway, man, life just Man, it just whole new meaning to life. It changes everything. Life is never it will never be the same, and it's for the good, man. It's awesome. So I love the Lord. I like to tell anybody I can about Christ. So it's really made a huge change. So that's where it's awesome that it's funny. I was going to bring this up at the beginning, but it's awesome we're talking about it now. I still have a big passion for cars. But what was happening to me a couple of years ago when I was running the drag strip and stuff, I was obsessing over them. I was spending every second I had, and that's too. You just can't do that. I was so tired. I didn't care about nothing else. All I wanted to do was mess with my cars. We were big. That's around the time the disco got its name. And there's nothing wrong with that per se, except for it was an idol. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so I think the only thing I would say to somebody is don't make things of this world an idol because it's all gonna. When somebody's lying on their deathbed, um, they're probably not thinking about the car.
No.
Now, like you said, your fault. He wanted to. That's different. That was he wanted to experience that, and
Mhm.
it's. But to make that that he wanted to ride in a truck
Well,
again. He didn't want. It
yeah.
wasn't that this car right here. That's all my life was about. That wasn't it. It was the memories. It was the support. It was a
Sure.
son that he raised that was successful.
Mhm.
That was what was important to him. I'm sure I never met him, but I know that's what it was.
Mhm.
You've always been a good guy to me, and I know that's what he's seen in you. And that's what I think's awesome, and that's why I said earlier when I was talking about I like cars. I always use the word love and like differently now, and I really do. I enjoy cars. I like the old disco. She's sitting there needing a little bit of work right now. I'll see it when I pull into the home and raise the
Mhm.
garage door, but uh, it's just one of those things where they have took a little bit of a back burner
Mhm.
for me right now, but I'll always like cars. Like
Yeah.
you said earlier, it's something about the connection of just horsepower riding in one. I think
Mhm.
everybody like just once you get that parallel parking down, you'll love it. I mean, it's
Oh, it's
just
freedom.
that's right.
For a young
It's
person, it's
that's it's
freedom.
exactly right. Going wherever you want to go. Just like I said earlier, some people that don't want to race, they don't want to get in trouble, but like that merging on the interstate with
Yeah.
the Miata or
Drop it
the Mini
down.
Coupe, just
Yeah.
dropping that gear, hearing that little turbo spin. It's a cool feeling. That's why I said earlier that Lord put us here to enjoy this life. Not to we ain't here to be miserable and stuff like that. Man, just can shoo, that stuff's
Yeah.
awesome. But I just don't want to make it an idol. So I
Yeah.
know that was a simple question that I took a long
No,
way, but
that's good. And a matter of fact, I we talk about that similar situation. I always tell people, my children, I said, this is how I see things, and this is how
yeah, yeah,
But I truly believe that a lot of people will go through life believing what they don't really have their own beliefs. They just believe what they were taught, whether it was their parents,
yeah.
and that's why you see Osama bin Laden's and you see,
That's right.
these it's that's what they were raised in. And it's not less necessarily they ever went on a search to find something.
That's right.
And when you find something, it means more. Just
Yeah,
like what you're saying.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You knew,
Hmm.
but when you found it,
That's right.
it's
Yeah, yeah,
different. That's what I tell them. I said, I want you to find your own beliefs. Find this
yeah.
is what I see, and I try to encourage them to look into that. And I would encourage everyone to do that because You can't really truly believe it though, until you actually
That's
experience it,
right. Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like I can sit here and tell you how fun it is to drive 160 miles an
That's right.
hour,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
until you get in there and you experience, or you go to that, when you go to the drag strip, man, it's so loud, it's so
yeah,
exciting.
yeah.
But when you go there and you got your drink and your popcorn, all of a sudden it's like boom, you're
That's
like, oh
right.
my god,
Now I understand. Yeah,
that big boom, and you got to experience
that's
that,
right. Yeah,
to be
yeah,
understand. So I'm glad you talked. Me and Brad talk
yeah.
about that a lot. We've had a couple different podcasts here, and he's doing a big one
Yeah,
soon.
that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, yeah. I'll have
So,
to check into that. And I think the podcast thing, man, I think it's really good. We're talking about the new age information, or the new age, and the information's all at our fingertips, with
yeah.
the phones and stuff. And I think that's really good too. I mean, you got to think, no matter what you're into, you can find material on it.
Oh, sure.
If I listen to sermons and stuff all day, or the guy who likes football, he's want to hear about stats, and stuff. What's funny is this is a real quick story. I got a real good friend of mine named Garrett Gruber. He was the judge executive there in Livingston. He's actually who resigned when
When,
Miss Swanson took
Harris,
over.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, but he said once we lived together when we were young, and he was a big sports guy. And we had a duplex, and one day I was joking about ESPN costs a lot of money, and he paid for all that. But I was like, hey man, I saved us a bunch of money on our cable. I got rid of all these sports channels. I said we
Yeah,
don't
right.
watch this.
That's
Just
exactly what I was going
Oh
with
yeah,
before.
just messing with him.
Yeah.
And he laughed. He knew I was kidding or whatever. But I said one day we were driving somewhere. He had the radio on. It was on like a XM radio or whatever, and it was football stats. I said, "How do you listen to that, man?"
Yeah.
I
I
was like, "How do
know.
you sit there?" And he goes, "Let me ask you something." And it just really just like light bulbed me. He said, if somebody was sitting here talking about building an engine,
You
and
listen.
sitting here and be like, hey, we've got this 1967
Yeah.
Camaro, first gen Camaro. It's the first year they were made, and it come out with it. He's
And
like,
he starts
you'd
giving
sit
you
there and listen,
stats.
wouldn't you? And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, I
Yeah.
probably would. And he
Yeah.
goes, there you go.
Yeah.
It's all about just what you're into. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that was like, never thought about it that
Yeah.
way.
Aha moment. Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those because, hey, like we talked earlier, we're self-centered.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm all
yeah.
about cars. I don't care about your sports, but to
Yeah.
him, he don't care about cars. He cares about his sports.
Yeah.
So it was an eye-opening thing. So with this information, like with podcasts, there's gonna be people here that like cars, like MMA. They'll like the show,
Yeah.
or they can listen to maybe they want to hear some
No.
men talk about their faith and talk about Christ and learn more about it. You can listen to that, or whatever you're into. There's gonna be a podcast for it.
And even then, so you can go search everything you want on the internet, and there's all this information, but there's going to be stories that only you have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Stories that are awesome and cool, only I have, or
yeah. That's
only
right.
Tristan has, and we may experience them at the same time, but his perspective is
Yeah, man.
completely different, and it'd be like, oh, I never even thought about that. That's the thing about having these conversations, is you get to hear those stories, and
Yeah,
those are the ones I like to hear. The
yeah.
ones
Absolutely. Yeah,
about how people have changed in their life, and you'd be surprised at how many people will actually just listen in that may not have an interest necessarily in the topic. They just like to hear those
yeah.
stories.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we'll wrap it up with, and I think I can probably answer this one for you, but what do you think the meaning of life is?
Well, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
Well, so with a Christ-centered life, there, you know, I think there's three things about the Lord that we need to know. Lord is sovereign. And He's sovereign. Uh, he's good, and He's wise. And why that's important is because if God was sovereign but not good, we're all in trouble.
Hmm.
Or if God was sovereign and good, but he wasn't wise, well, now we're in even more trouble. You know what I mean? And I think all those three have to happen together. So when it comes to the meaning of life, of course, being converted, being saved by the Lord, that's number one. Knowing where you're going to go when this life ends, because if there's one statistic it's one for one, is we're all going to die at some point. Now that's something we don't always want to talk about, but we only get so many years. We get one of our pastors, Brian Sims, he's an awesome dude. But on your tombstone is going to be a birth date and an end date, and then all you get's that dash in the middle. And that's a really good thing to look at. It's like, so what did you do with your dash?
Yeah.
And for me, and what the Bible tells us a lot of times, it's not so much what we do, it's where we put our faith. And you got to put your faith in Him, and He's the one that died for us all. We're all fallen creatures. None of us are perfect. None of us are. We've all done our bad. Man, I'm probably the top of the list in this room for sure on
Oh,
bad stuff
no.
done.
Trust me.
But man, it's been terrible. But what's awesome is that Romans 5:8 says that while we were sinners, yet while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. So and that's an awesome thing that man, we don't deserve any of that. And so just to praise Him, to worship Him, and something about when it's not something, it's when Lord changes your heart. Some people are like, man, I gotta go to church today. Man,
Mhm.
Oh man, I gotta go. I would rather go to I go to a little church in Drivingville called Solid Rock Baptist. We've got a main pastor, Kyle Reeder, and then we've got four elders, or I'm sorry, three elders, so it's four total. I would rather be there than any drag race in the world, man. I
Yeah.
just love it. And when he changes your heart, changes your affections. And man, I love it. I'd just soon be there than anywhere in this world. Just learning more about Christ, hearing about Christ, talking about Christ. That's where my life is. That's what the Lord's done. It was nothing I did. He did it all. So I didn't. I don't know. I would never would have said 3 years ago I want to be at church every Sunday. I want to. I
Yeah.
can't go drag race here, man. I got to be. And it's
Yeah.
because it's not a. I've got to be there. Oh, I got to be there. No, I want to be there.
Right.
So
I think
that's where I guess the meaning of life there is just wherever the Lord puts me. I'm sure if you know anything about the Bible, you've heard about Job. Job was had it all. The Bible says that Job had it all, and then the Lord took it all from him. And and he still, though he lost everything, and he's sitting in. The Bible describes he's got sores all over his body, sitting in ashes. He said, "Even if the Lord slayed me right now, I'd still worship Him."
yeah.
And man, just to have that faith, man, is where it's at. Because in the end, eternity, life's short, death's certain, and eternity's forever.
Yeah.
So forever's a long time. So
Yeah. Even Prince said that.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah, and he's
Um,
getting to experience it now, I guess.
yeah. So, I we talk a lot about religion in this podcast,
Yeah,
in different ones, especially with Brad and him, and I again would say that finding something for yourself other than just listen, because
yeah.
I know the Bible pretty good.
There you go. Yeah,
I read it 6 times.
there you go. Good, good, good.
Um, so a lot of times people will be arguing with me about or trying to.
Trying to,
I don't
yeah,
argue
yeah,
about stuff. I just say. But I just had this opportunity at lunch the other day, and I was saying, and I'm not even going to get into this because I don't want to.
yeah.
I said, this is what it says. And he's like, no, it doesn't. It means, I'm like, well, and then for 30 minutes, I sit there at lunch waiting for him to look through AI and everything to find out, well, it doesn't say that, but that's what it means. I'm like, well,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
But I do know one thing. Christ said, and if I'm not mistaken, one of his very only commandments based from him himself,
yeah, yeah.
Christ, was love each other as you love other people.
Absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
he did.
So,
Yeah.
and I think that's really the key that we need to look at across the board, regardless of how you really believe
Yeah, man.
is that's what I think that's really what he was trying to put out there. I mean, yeah, we shouldn't tell, we shouldn't have these things that there's certain things that normal society shouldn't have in it. But at the end of the day, if you love each other as he loves
Yeah,
us,
man.
you're not going to have that
We,
situation
w
arise. It's not going to be a problem.
Life would be a lot better. There wouldn't be
Yeah.
Democrats and Republicans fighting each other all the time.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah,
A little understanding here and
if
there.
just you could take if you just take just that one commandment. Yeah, if you just take that one.
You just do that. You don't have to, everything else is fixed.
That's right. A
You're not going to,
lot. Yeah.
sin is
Yeah.
irrelevant.
Mhm.
I mean, am I going to do something to myself?
We'll start a whole nother podcast on that one.
Yeah, I'm just saying if you were to do something to yourself, what we consider sin, and would I do that to me? No. Well, then if I love you the
yeah.
same, I'm not going to. Yeah, it kind of.
If
Yeah,
we were perfect,
yeah,
Jesus come to fix that because he was the only one that was perfect. But
yeah.
yeah, it may be good another podcast. We may have to do
Hey,
this
we could
again.
do a roundtable event
We could,
if
we
we got the
could.
room for it.
Hey, that'd be
I just got to
awesome.
get some more mics.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
that'd
get Brad
be
in here. He's a
Brad.
great
What's Brad's last name?
Brad Henson. You know him.
Yeah, yeah, I think
He actually did what was it, the Potter's House there
yeah,
in
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ledbetter.
That'd be great.
And
Yeah,
then he did several. He grew whatever the other church. He grew it
yeah, yeah.
huge. And then he himself, you might want to watch
He's
the
from.
last podcast we had with him.
That's the one I had. I haven't seen that one, and I hadn't seen
But he
Yona's
talks
yet.
about getting so his church got so big that his wife came to him and said, "Do you realize that you haven't had breakfast, lunch, or dinner with your family?" And I forget how many weeks and
Yeah,
months it was. And he said it's time to step back.
yeah, man.
And he's got a nice little church up in there, over there on the south side right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You got to be careful with that. You got
yeah,
to, families.
yeah.
Family's important,
Mm.
and that's well, that's good. Yeah, that's yeah. I have to listen to that because
He's
I've
doing
tried.
this. I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you,
No,
but
no, go
he's
ahead. Yeah,
the reason he's interested in this room is he's doing that 6 pastors that are coming from all over,
yeah,
3 times a year, and
that's
they're going to
great.
do a 6-hour podcast. It's going to be aired in Jerusalem and Pakistan or something like that.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah,
Yeah, like it'll be 24 hours a day, so it's pretty cool.
that's pretty neat,
Yeah,
man. That's awesome. And then
interesting.
I think it's and going back to just you guys, I think this is the awesome concept, man.
Yeah,
I've never, it's kind of like okay, years ago. It's been 15 years ago. A good friend of mine started a mobile detail business. Now he sold it and everything, but I didn't understand that concept. I said, "What do you mean mobile detail?" And he went to them to detail their cars. So
yeah,
my wife works at she's a paralegal for Flint and Cooper. So he would go to offices like that, dental offices or lawyers' offices. Hey, you know, $35 will wash and vacuum your car. And I was like, man, that's like the best idea ever. Like I've never even heard of that. So like here, it's like podcast and stuff's growing. Everybody wants to do it. There's a lot of people that are like, man, I'd love to have a podcast, but I don't have the equipment. I don't have,
The
I don't,
space, the
I don't have these
time.
two. I don't have nothing. I don't. And they might just like you said earlier, might want to talk to themselves. They might not want to.
Yeah, they just want to come in and do
Yeah,
it
like
and
the
talk.
true
Yeah,
crime stuff. My wife,
yeah,
I like some of that true crime stuff. That's pretty neat.
yeah,
Listening to some of that, how they caught some of those guys. But man, and you guys offer that service
yeah,
of, hey, here's what it cost, and you come in and do your thing. And man, that's
yeah.
so appealing to people, man. It's just
Sure.
that'd be awesome. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's my brother was trying to get into it, but he didn't know how to do all this stuff.
yeah,
I'm gonna let him know. Say, hey, man, call Joe.
yeah. Well,
He'll
we'd
hook
love
you
to.
up.
We're
Yeah,
hoping to kick this thing off soon, but
yeah,
for now, it's just my show, and
yeah. I
it.
think you do. I think it's
And I
awesome,
do
man.
it. I would do it anyways.
Yeah,
It's
man.
not about money, but if it, if it again makes a little bit, that's even better.
I think it's awesome, man. I think you
So,
do. Yeah. I
all
hope
right,
the
man.
car stuff, man. I hope it goes. I hope it booms. And
We've really made a turn. It's been
that's good,
hard,
man.
man. It's so hard,
Now you
but
don't
we made
do.
a turn.
Yeah, yeah. You don't do any kind of regular mechanic work.
We do some collision work
Okay,
on
okay.
occasion, and very little mechanic. And I want to kind of, unless I just get a mechanic on hand, I
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
move away from that.
I don't blame
So.
you.
And I'm looking for that guy, and then I'll put this on the podcast. This is my plug. I need that manager, that
Yeah,
shop manager that can come in and can run the show and
yeah,
be the tough guy. I have brought in a lady that worked with me years ago, and she's in the last year and a half, she straightened a lot of things out.
yeah,
Because I would come in and you'd be like, "How much?" I'd be like this, and I'm easy. I can get in the cage and fight the biggest guy in there,
yeah, yeah,
but an older guy that and she's like, "No, no, no, wait, you gotta pay for the bolts." I mean, she's collecting everything,
yeah, man.
and then
Yeah,
she's really helped a lot, and we've turned some
that's good. That's good.
but, yeah,
And I understand that too. So those conversations sometimes are the hardest ones, man.
hard. I'm dreading
I'm
some
like
of them.
you. I'd rather, you'd rather get in a cage with somebody sometimes
Mhm,
than tell them, hey,
much
man,
so. I've got the conversation I got tomorrow, I'd much rather be in a cage with 2 or 3 guys
that's exactly
than it
right.
is
Yeah,
one I'm gonna have,
I understand that, man.
but it is what it is. But it's going good, and, hopefully we find that one missing link. We get
Yeah,
that guy, and then I can let things kinda
that's good.
and I can focus here some too.
That's
I
good. Yeah,
really
that's
enjoy
right.
this, so.
Yeah, Tristan, I hope everything goes great.
Yeah,
You guys are
and then
being really good.
Tristan's already got a couple books he's written.
Yeah,
He's
man,
working on publishing a couple of them.
rolling.
So,
So I remember y'all were real little back then, because that'd have been, think back, that'd been
yeah,
2008.
yeah, that's
So
a
you
while
guys were
back.
young, young then.
You need to meet my youngest one. I wish he was here. He's a man. He's something. He's a fisherman,
Oh
and
yeah,
he's a big businessman. He starts this thing called the Superstore at my shop.
yeah.
Little Debbie's and cookies
Hey,
and
there you
candies,
go,
and he
man.
sells them. And then we go buy the stuff, and he conveniently forgets his money.
Oh, that's wild.
So, but maybe he's just really good at business,
He
and
may
I'm
be.
not.
I may have to
I'm
my
not.
wife uses that sometimes. How
Yeah.
about that?
So he
Now, where's
does
your shop
really
at again?
Kibble, right on the main
Okay,
drag.
that's
You
what I was
can't miss
thinking. I
it.
thought it
Yeah.
was in Campbell. Okay.
Yeah, you can't miss it. So he'll do that, and then the lady was bringing. She brought some cookies or something in for free.
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, you can't have that here. You're getting into my sales."
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I said, "Well, I hope that he's here to take care of these two when they get there."
That's
Or
right.
actually, my daughter's supposed to take care of this one here if he doesn't.
There you go.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Eden's going to
Alrighty.
school for it too, so we appreciate that.
Yeah. So, man, I'm glad we put it together.
Man, yeah, man. It's been great.
When you got that real connection with cars,
Yeah, man.
I mean, we maybe talked, I don't know, a handful of times over
Yeah.
several years, but just being able to know what's going on in that conversation.
Yeah.
We may have lost some people there a few times, but
That's all right.
the
That's all
car
right.
guys are going to really like it.
That's exactly right.
So many things we didn't talk about. I wanted to get into like the insurance part of like
Yeah.
drag racing. I know that's got to be a nightmare.
Yeah, and maybe we can do another one
Yeah, that's
soon,
what I
and
was going to say.
we'll talk more about, because that would be a whole podcast in itself, just what it's like to be a track manager.
Yeah, and
There's a lot to that.
the safety and just
Yeah,
different things like that, and
we
there's
get
so many things that we could talk about with cars
yeah, man. We
and also the future,
yeah, yeah, yeah. We could
and
form
maybe
a we should look into that if you got some time. I could put some stuff together. Track management, man, is just
yeah,
it's wild. It
it's got to
never
be
it's
like
I never thought it could be as big. I never thought it would. What I thought it was versus what it is was
yeah,
polar opposites.
well, it's like matchmaking for fights.
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
it's, well,
Oh yeah, I
so,
watch you guys do that all the
but
time.
maybe
It's
we get another guy in, get
yeah,
some different guys, and we'll have a little group. I
be
mean,
great. Yeah,
yeah,
man.
definitely.
That'd be great.
So I
It's been
appreciate you,
awesome.
and I will say this about Mr. Cherry here. I've had a few people come to me in life, and they said, "This person says this about you."
Yeah.
And every time I've had that happen from you, it's always been positive. I appreciate that.
Oh, it's good. Yeah, yeah.
You get into a point in life where you feel like everybody's on you.
Yeah,
You
man.
can't make anybody happy, and you're letting everybody down.
Yeah, man.
And then somebody comes in and says, Cody Cherry sent me here, and he says you'll take care of me. You're a good guy,
Yeah.
and I appreciate that. I
Yeah,
just want you
anytime,
to
man.
know
Yeah,
that,
man.
and
Yeah.
I always put you on the top of the list in the car world.
I appreciate that,
So,
man. I appreciate
yeah, I
that.
enjoyed. I really appreciate you taking the time to come out here.
Anytime, man. I
I
had a
know you're, and
blast.
tell your wife I appreciate her for letting you come out
Yeah,
and
yeah.
hang out.
She would. We could give her a microphone, but she's a
She
little
might
quieter.
have chimed in about that El Camino.
She. Oh yeah, yeah.
We
So
might have got a
if we
little
do
bit
it
out of
again,
her.
we'll bring that up again.
Yeah.
We'll get her side of the
Well, I
story.
won't. Don't tell her.
That's
I'm
right.
gonna say. So, what's going on with this El Camino?
He's looking at another El Camino. How
Yeah,
do you feel about that?
yeah. We got a budget. Are you
That's
cool? All right, buddy.
that's awesome.
I'm glad we did it. Let's
Yeah,
do it
man.
again soon.
Absolutely. It's good
Yeah,
seeing you.
cool. And I'll keep you up to date on. We'll be sending you stuff on how we're
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
release it and everything. It'll be on YouTube and our Spotify channels, and then
Sweet.
all of the shorts. That's where people really watch is the
Really?
shorts. Yeah, we get 10 times more views on our shorts. It's just a 2 hour podcast, 2.5 hour. It has to be something you're really interested in.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
So the
yeah.
people who aren't, they'll get those shorts and they'll watch those.
Perfect. Yeah.
So
That's
we
you
get
guys come in.
yeah, lots of work for them.
That's right.
Tristan gets sick to death of seeing his dad's face. 'Cause that's all he does all week long.
So that's the moneymaker.
Yeah,
Come on,
that's right.
Tristan.
Yeah, for now. All right. Well, let's do it again.
Yeah, man.
Thanks again.
Appreciate you guys.
What exactly happened down there?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I talked to him and blah, blah, blah. He asked about you guys and da-da-da-da-da, more questions, blah, blah, blah.